Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope that you've been able to keep up with our content on YouTube and all social media platforms at News Central TV. For the next 3 hours, we are together working through some of the biggest stories in the country. I am Olive MOD.
And I'm Joe Hansen, saying welcome. And by the way, you look amazing.
Thank you. I'm glad you noticed. I got a new dress.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really, you did?
Yes, it's a new dress. I've not worn it before.
Oh, okay, I see. I mean, that means the economy is really not affecting.
No, it's just because I understand that I prioritize my News Central role. My role here as News Central TV anchor for our flagship show. I prioritize it such that I'm willing to inconvenience myself to buy new outfits. And, you know, just as a way to say that I'm committed to looking the part while sounding the part.
That's quite thoughtful, you know.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
But Nigerians don't think like you're thinking. If we do a research or a report right now or an analysis, we'll find out that a cross-section of Nigerians don't agree that they have
which one calls cross-section of Nigerians?
Okay, they cut across those who have a job and those who don't have a job.
Well, let's just say that those people are not working for News Central. If they were working for News Central, they would understand that News Central is really one of the best places to work, and you'll be glad to give your best.
Absolutely.
And look your best.
I agree with you.
Just like you look your best.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. 100%.
And sharp haircuts.
100%. Yes, we're back on the block.
I can see that.
We're back. Well, it feels good to be back, and it feels good to be here on a Thursday. Do you know, I almost thought today was a Friday. You know, I was like, man, it's weekend. But then I remember that I'm going to miss breakfast so much.
It happened. You know. Started again. Instead of you to be honest, I'm going to be happy.
No, I'm going to.
You're now behaving like a content creator. Are you Simon Ekpa?
No, you're talking about Simon Ekpa. That starts our wake-up conversation this morning. By the way, I want to say welcome. Don't forget you can tweet us on X. You can check us out. Drop your comments. Let us know what you think. Also, don't forget that you can let us know what the conversations really mean to you, especially the ones we bring on wake-up conversations, when we bring on the show. We've had interview, the Kenneth Okonkwo interview, quite shockingly, is getting the numbers and having people talk. If you haven't seen it, go on YouTube, check it out. I think he spilled a lot and he spoke his mind, and you would agree and you would disagree. Whatever you feel like, just go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen clips of the Kenneth Okonkwo interview, and people taking quotes out of it. They seem to agree with some of the things that he said in the video. The people who seem very pleased with what he had said in the interview. If you haven't yet seen it, there's a two-part interview. We had the first part posted up 2 days ago. That was when the interview happened, and we had another one yesterday. So check News Central's YouTube to get the Kenneth Okonkwo interview. And he spoke about a number of things. He spoke about the Labour Party and their preparedness or lack of it for the 2027 presidential elections, and how the Labour Party, as is currently constituted, is not ready to be a vehicle to produce not the exact words, but not ready to be a vehicle to produce the next president. He also talked about a coalition and said that all these parties, they need to decide first what vehicle, that is what political party, before they decide who the flag bearers of this political party is. And this is because, of course, Nigerians have been wondering, is it this SDP, is it the Labour Party, are they moving to the PDP, or is it an NPP? Nobody's quite sure, but Kenneth Okonkwo strongly believes that a coalition is what is necessary to overturn the current reality of Nigeria being an APC-led country.
Absolutely. Well said, well put together, well discussed. But let's go to Finland now. Just in case you don't know, Finnish prosecutors that are handling the case of pro-Biafran agitator, the one known as Simon Ekpa, are seeking 6-year prison sentence for him should he be found guilty. Now, Ekpa is standing trial on terrorism charges. In case you do not know, he appeared in the, I hope I get this pronunciation right, Pajat-Hame District Court on Friday last week for a preparatory hearing on terrorism-related charges, according to a Finnish local news medium called Lee. Now, the prosecutor reportedly cited substantial evidence of Ekpa's digital communications and activities. And just yesterday, on X, someone in Finland who happened to have been within the court decided to share what he had heard Simon Ekpa said. Now, He said Simon Ekpa denied having ties with IPOB and so on. But that's the tweet. Aji Busu Onye Mpiao, I hope I got that name right as well.
Want to read that.
But he said, just finished listening to Simon Ekpa's court proceedings, and I'm honestly in this belief. During cross-examination, he completely distanced himself from IPOB. Really? Claiming he's merely a content creator. According to him, everything he's done was simply acting, nothing more. Simon Ekpa's neighbor testified against him, claiming he often heard him say, Woto Pro Max.
Wow, is the Woto?
They're not going to say it like we say it.
Yeah,
Woto during phone calls. Out of curiosity, he did some digging and found it was allegedly a coded phrase Simon Ekpa used whenever he gave orders to his boys in Alaibo to go and kill. Ladies and gentlemen, to our viewers and to very interested Nigerians and those who have been calling for agitation and looking for a leader, there he is.
But this is the claim by Afam Deluxo,
allegedly.
Right? Yes, if you also read the ones that have been reported by the papers as well, he's denied terrorism charges. They've brought a lot of charges before him. Let me just quickly read out one of the two.
It still coincides with what the alleged statement.
Let's say what the Finnish police is saying.
Go ahead.
Finnish police is saying that Mr. Ekpa has contributed to violence and crimes against civilians in southeastern Nigeria, and that is they argued that, or the court later ordered that he be imprisoned with probable cause on suspicion of public incitement to commit crime with terrorist intent. So you would see also here from, I mean, if you read the full article, they said yes, that there's the prosecution acknowledged that obtaining detailed information about the alleged terrorism-related acts would be difficult, considering that the activities are believed to have taken place in Africa, and they are demanding a 6-year prison sentence for Mr. Ekpa. So, I mean, we've been following this story, and what we're seeing as well and hearing is that the Nnamdi Kanu faction of the pro-Biafra agitators have denied Simon Ekpa that he's not one of them. Reacting to these allegations of content creation, we don't know what it is, but we certainly don't know that he has pleaded guilty in any way, shape or form. I don't believe that he believes he's committed a crime, and to the police and before the court, he's not pleaded guilty.
Exactly.
But the reactions to this story by Afam on social media are interesting. There are those who have now compared, they've made a comparison between him and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and saying that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has never denied his association and his affiliation with the indigenous people of Biafra, and that he will give his life if he has to, and sacrifice for IPOB, but that they do not see that level of dedication and commitment to him. So, of course, there have been people who have been calling him out and just basically insulting. In fact, they say, oh, if he says he's a content creator, it's nice. We like his content in Nigeria. Let them send him back to Nigeria so he can continue his content creation activities and we can patronize and keep watching his content. I don't know how this will turn out, because I do know that he has his fans and his supporters still, and that this is just an allegation by one person. We're not really sure if that's what happened. I know that typically most court proceedings, they typically don't allow like live streaming, and we don't have evidence. So until there's detailed information about this that says of a truth, this is what he said, then I probably may be able to have comments in that regard.
What do you think his fate is? Should he be moved to Nigeria, like a repatriation, like he comes back to Nigeria?
I really don't know about that, because the people who will argue against that will cite Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's, and they won't call it, in fact, they refer to it as a kidnap, because they said he was forcefully, that they wouldn't say it was an extradition of sorts, but that the way he was captured and brought back to Nigeria was not within the ambit of the law, you know, especially because it's not like, and his defense was that he didn't jump bail. He ran for his life. While here in Nigeria, his family was attacked, and he had to save his life. It is someone that is alive that will appear for court proceedings, right?
Yeah, and also being a citizen of another,
So the thing is, when it comes to handling cases like that, I want to be careful. But I do know that there's a breach of trust. If people trusted our courts, trusted our government, trusted the government in the sense that if the court gives a judgment, the government will not override it and say DSS should hold him down, right? If they trusted that with the evidence that is presented before the court will be able to make a sound decision, maybe there would have been a stronger push for him to be brought back to Nigeria. But then again, there's also the angle for those who strongly believe that he's behind the violence in the southeastern part of Nigeria. I can't speak to that because I'm not directly affected by that, and I'm not going to claim to understand.
You don't live there too.
Exactly. I'm not going to claim to understand their pain. I guess the people in the southeastern part of Nigeria are the ones who will speak directly to this. But I know, the one thing I know is that the indigenous people of Biafra have, some of them have put forth strong points as to why they feel they've been alienated and why they want some form of cessation. However, the manner in which things have been carried out in terms of people that have been killed, the sit-at-home order and how it's crippled the economy. There are a number of things, even though when you speak with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, he's dissociated himself as well from the sit-at-home. Right? So it's a dicey situation. Again, I cannot claim to understand the depth of the impact that the crisis within IPOB has caused on the Anambra or all the people in the southeastern part of Nigeria. I'm not going to claim, but maybe we should ask them. So this is an open call to our viewers, those watching us from southeastern part of Nigeria. What are your thoughts regarding Simon Ekpa, the manner in which his case has been handled? Do you think he should be brought back to Nigeria? And do you have concerns about how the case might be handled? And maybe just bring us up to speed about the current situation of things in southeastern part of Nigeria. You can drop a comment. We're streaming live on YouTube, News Central Live. We probably will take your comment if you drop it before the end of this segment. And then you can also tweet at us individually. You can tweet at me at Olive MOD, and you can tweet at Joe at I am Johansson, or at News Central TV, so we can take your tweets.
Absolutely.
Let's now move from the southeastern part of Nigeria to northern Nigeria.
Let's go straight to the story that we covered so much yesterday. Well, I told you about the flood in Mokwa community, and we did have members of that community speak with us. Our reporter is and was on ground yesterday, and he joined us live, giving us bit-by-bit details of what happened, the provisions that have been made for the victims of the flood and the areas and what the government would do. Yesterday, it was also announced here on Breakfast Central that a VP was expected to arrive in Niger State. And yes, he eventually did. He arrived yesterday. And it was a good one because it brought about a lot of confidence from the people. They also went ahead to ensure that they made provisions that would help the victims to at least manage the situation until every single thing is indeed handled. So the Vice President was there, Kashim Shettima. Talk about Senator Kashim Shettima. He was there yesterday. He also offered, the federal government had offered a total of, I think, about 2 billion naira was given to ensure that everything was erected back to normal. Their homes were set to, would be built again for them to have shelter. So I like the fact that that money was pledged. I also like the fact that they've said their homes should be constructed back so that they can go back and start living their lives again. Because one thing that usually happens is when there's a makeshift space for them, or you can call it, where they actually move them to first, and then move them to another place, and then they keep moving them here.
I think we will just call it their holding place, or their IDP camp.
One camp to the other. And before you know, the IDPs, internally displaced persons, would now forever remain there. Nothing else is done. But I like the fact that they said, listen, go ahead, give them that guarantee. And that's exactly what the federal government has done. So we're going to say kudos to the federal government on this one. Kudos because you've done well in heeding to the call of the people. Because remember when our reporter joined us yesterday, one of the key things he mentioned was that the victims were wondering if the federal government really cares. Because the state governor, we did hear, the first lady also was there. But then again, they also wanted to hear from the federal government, from the top, either from the president. And that's exactly what happened. And that's a very good one. And we say, well done. There you have the footage there where the vice president arrived, speaking to the locals there, and eventually also speaking with them one-on-one, letting them know what he's brought. in terms of good news, goodwill, and telling them that he's with them and they're going to ensure that they support them the best way possible. It's a natural disaster. One would only wish that this doesn't happen any longer. So, Olive, I don't know what you think about the Vice President.
No, I think yesterday when we spoke about it, I thought that it was a good idea. I think that when things like this happen, you don't want citizens to ever feel like they're alone in their suffering. We commended the Borno State governor when he went to the front lines, when he went to, the different communities that had been attacked by or that had been plagued by bandits and terrorists. And we commended him for not just visiting them, but even spending the night there, even though people had asked him not to do that. So we think that it's great for morale when our leaders go to commiserate with the victims and the survivors. People have lost families. There are entire families that may have been wiped out, immediate family members. Again, yesterday, someone said he lost 9 family members in that flood. So it's important what he did, just going there to show support. So I'm a fan of, or I'm not a fan of us looking for something to always say, oh, they didn't do this, because I know that there are people who still criticize his visit. I think there was nothing wrong with that visit.
Sure, some said that it shouldn't have been him, it should have been the president. So what's the president doing in Lagos? He should have taken the next flight.
Preferably, I think that it would be great if the president could have visited them. It would have been great. But if we can't get the president, at least we can get the vice president, right? They're both the leaders of our nation. So I think that it was great. Well done. Kudos to the vice president or to the presidency for going to be with the people of Mokwa in this time and pledging their support. And also to mention that while we're talking about Salah is going to be celebrated in a few days. I think tomorrow and Monday. The people in Niger State, the government of Niger State has, there's not going to be any Salah celebrations. The update that we have here is that the Niger State government has cancelled the Hawan Bariki, Durbar, and other large-scale Eid al-Kabir festivities across the state. And this is for obvious reasons, because they're mourning. Over 200 bodies have been found. Over 3,000 houses have been, displaced, or families have been displaced. It's a really sad time for the people in Niger State. I remember, I think it was in Senegal, where they had like a bus had exploded and some citizens had died. And the government called a 3-day mourning. It was a national mourning for the people that died. When I hear stories of situations like that, it cannot bring back the dead. But it can make the surviving families, the surviving family members feel like, I'm not alone in my suffering. My state sees me. My state commiserates with me.
Yeah.
And it can help, it won't take away the pain completely, but it will soothe it to some extent. I think that we don't do a lot of that here in Nigeria. We seem to move over things very quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, this number of people have died. Everybody, national outrage for a few hours or maybe a day or two, and after that, we've moved on to the next story. So it's either we've become desensitized, maybe because of how often it's happened. I really don't know what it is, but I think that we should hold a candle for our brothers and our sisters in Niger State for what they're dealing with. As many organizations who can donate relief, they need relief and support in this time as much as possible. So let's please try to show up for them. Injustice to one is injustice to all. Unfortunately, this is an act of God, an act of nature because of climate change and the rains. However, this could have been avoided, or this can be avoided, because if we continue along this trajectory, it will happen again. And it will be a sorry tale, a sad tale. President or Vice President come and visit, and we move on to the next heavy rain or next flash flood. Anyway.
Well said, well said. We're happy with this story, and we cannot but wish the people of Mokwa, Niger State, that they truly get the comfort that they need during these trying times. But that's not all we're going to take. As we wrap up Wake Up Conversation, let's also remind you that you have the opportunity to be part of the program. So go ahead on all socials and let us know what you think. One of the biggest stories is what we're going to look at later today is the fact that we do have the River State Sole Administrator who has appointed 11 PEMSECs.
Yes, I saw that information. In fact, the letter that was dated, or the letter that was sent out, was like, His Excellency, the administrator. I was like, I didn't know that His Excellency, they used to call him more. His Excellency, the Admiral Ibo, I don't know why I keep...
Ibas.
I want to try and pronounce it with you. in the way that you do,
Yeah.
the administrator of Rivers State. See, I need more information on that to be able to comment, because I know that if he's functioning as administrator, yes, he's not the executive governor of the state, but there are responsibilities that need to be carried out. I want to ask, these, because we don't have enough information, so far it's just the letters that have been put out about
social media.
Exactly. So is it that these people, maybe there are people that are retired, were there vacancies that needed to be filled up? And we will be talking about this much later in the show this morning, but were there vacancies that needed to be filled up? Was it that things would have broken down irretrievably if he did not appoint these people? And I ask this because we can criticize a number of the actions, whether we like it or not. He's the administrator, and he's here to stay till the 6th month when the governor should be reinstated based on the suspension that surrounds the emergency rule. So, without a shadow of doubt, could the state and could these ministries have functioned without this PEMSEC? Would he have tripled activities there? Because we have a budget. There's been a budget that's been approved, right? So if the state must run, are they a very key part of making the state run? If yes, great. If not, if it wasn't necessary, then he probably should have overlooked it, especially because of the criticism that he has gotten for some of the actions. Because people are saying, why are you acting like the governor? Or the time when his wife, in the stead of the First Lady, addressed women of Rivers State, and they were livid, saying, no, we don't want to hear from you. You are not our First Lady. It's either the First Lady of Nigeria or the wife of Siminalayi Fubara, who is the executive and elected governor that we put in there. So I think that there are things that he can do. You know, the Holy Book says all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't necessary, he could have overlooked it if it wasn't necessary.
Well, a few experts will argue that it's very necessary so that you can keep, you know, the administration. He's an administrator.
That's what I was asking.
Yes, so you can
if
keep the
it was
administration,
absolutely necessary,
you know, going. But some of the names are Aleruchi Akani, Vera Sam Dike, appointment of Nicholas Iminabo Wokoma, Jeremiah Egu. You also have Loretta Davis, Dimpa Uche R. Idiozu. You also have Chimenum Mpi, Dabite Sokari George, Dr. Minati Kuru, not forgetting to Soy Bitien Duke Harry, Ima. All right, let me just look at that name very carefully. Ima Oyani, Roslyn, Ephraim, George. A total of 11 have been appointed by the sole administrator. But what does this mean for the return of the duly elected, suspended governor of Rivers State, Governor Siminalayi Fubara, despite having a closed-door meeting with the president here in Lagos? Are we going to see a return anytime soon with these appointments? Does it mean that the entire structure has now been restructured? Because remember, this conversation started from, I have a structure, don't take it out. And then one person said, I'm going to change the structure, and then appointed a few persons and so on and so forth. And now, before you know it, we have 4 months to go. So the question is, as we count down to the end of the 6 months, are we going to see the sole administrator finish? No,
is the 6 months going to finish? Or?
It is a question. I know the answer, but I mean, we know the answer, but I think we should throw it out to our audience.
Who told you that I know the answer? I mean, I know the answer.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do very much.
Let's hear.
In the democratic setting, it's called the administration. In the military setting, it's called regime. What do you call this?
Admini regime.
Well, will he finish his 6 months admin regime or tenure? Let's just use the basic English tenure, which simply means a time frame for
or the
which,
6 month time frame.
Yeah.
For which he's been here.
But it's very interesting to see what's going on. You've been to Rivers recently, just last week. I was there not too long. Rivers is peaceful. It's
like business as usual.
Yeah, it's business
I think the only issue that we will see in Rivers State would be because our reporter has gone to the waterways to cover some of the unfortunate incidents in terms of kidnaps, the insecurity on the waterways that has now impacted the quality of the life of citizens, especially because it's a major route that has to struggle through the insecurity challenges, which is a big deal, right? But other than that, you check the other parts of Port Harcourt, which is the state capital. Port Harcourt seems relatively peaceful, It seems like everybody's going on with business as usual.
Yeah, it's normal. It's business as usual. And that's a good thing. And I like the fact
Apart from how very expensive it is, surprisingly expensive.
Is it expensive?
Eh?
Olive, I had a meal in River State, and I wished and prayed and hoped that we can have that same experience.
Okay, maybe it's what I wanted to buy. I went to get an outfit, and I did not go to the bougie stores. I didn't go to the bougie ones.
Where did you go to?
I went into the market. I forgot him, but there's a market.
How did you dress?
Okay,
did you use their slang?
I spoke pidgin, no? Yeah, I spoke
Maybe they
pidgin.
sized you up and said, this one is not from around here.
I went to like 8 stores, and I was hearing
prices.
Maybe what is expensive to me is not expensive to some other person. But when a simple dress, they are telling me, telling me 175,000.
For what?
For what?
For what?
Am I because of the economy? No.
I mean, you're capable. I mean, you're capable. That's like.
No, it's a lot of money for me right now.
That's more money for.
It's a lot of money for me right now.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's have it.
Yeah,
come on. Let's have it.
Yeah. Please don't worry. Speaking of outfit, I want to give a special shout out to Mokunye Chukwemeka for giving me a shout out on YouTube. Thank you very much for shouting out to my dress on YouTube. He gave me hearty.
You just did that now?
Yes, on YouTube. Gave me hearty congratulations.
So you don't see men too, you see only women.
Did you wear new clothes?
It's okay. It's okay.
All right.
Thanks so much, guys.
That is the bulk of our wake-up conversations. I would like you to jump in on any that you find relatable as we share the content as well. Remember that you can drop comments. Drop your comments in the chat box on YouTube. And if your comments is related to any of the things that we're discussing, I'll be glad to take your comments before the show comes to an end. Please also remember to engage with us on X, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, at News Central TV. But for now, let's share with you what our top stories are. This morning on Breakfast Central, we'll be looking at Nigeria's debt crisis and analyzing where we are, the latest borrowing plan and what that means. We'll also head to River State, where the sole administrator has appointed 11 new permanent secretaries. What this means, we'll be exploring. Lagos State cracks down on waste offenders. They say clean up or pay 250,000 naira or jail term. We'll also be looking at the Kurudu refuse crisis in Abuja and what this means, the impacts during the rainy season. And of course, we'll be looking at the front pages of the newspapers. Stay with us. Kurudu, a bustling satellite community within the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, is battling the negative effect of indiscriminate waste disposal as residents lament the inability of the FCT authorities to evacuate the refuse. They say this is posing a major health and environmental risk as the unevacuated refuse is now taking over the major access roads. News Central's correspondent Aisha Salihu visited the community and now brings us the full story. For the people of Kurudu, this is their daily reality. A section of this road, originally earmarked as a refuse collection point with a designated bin, has become an open dumping ground. Residents with limited alternatives continue to dispose of their waste here.
But the real problem, they say, lies in the glaring absence of waste management authorities.
If there is nowhere they should put the dustbin, the place already developed. So please and please, let them help us to change it before this thing will cause a lot of accidents.
Let them check it themselves. It's not okay. We have many people that are passing through this road, and if you are passing by foot, you cannot pass completely.
The economic impact is profound. Business owners like Ugu Sunday, who rely on the accessibility of this road for their customers, are seeing their livelihoods crumble. But beyond the financial losses, a more sinister threat looms: a public health crisis.
The dustbin is disturbing me from my work because my customer is running to me because of this dustbin. When they come, they say the dustbin is smelling. So they don't please stay with me. They carry the work to go.
The stagnant waste, a breeding ground for mosquitoes, flies, and rodents, poses a significant health hazard. Concerns about cholera, typhoid, and other communicable diseases are growing among the community.
I cannot stay in my business ground based on the order, and what I'm perceiving is not helpful to my health, and it's not helpful to my customers.
When I don't go to hospital, the thing is affecting me because of the smell. I go there, the hospital people told me that I'm staying from where the good day, it affects my body.
Residents maintain the lack of will by the authorities to pay the private company contracted to pick the refuse, leading to the mess. They are asking for intervention to reclaim their road, their livelihoods, and their health.
The uncontrolled dumping of waste at this refuse disposal site between Pegi and Kurudu, satellite communities in the FCT, has posed threat to the source of livelihoods for many residents in this area. One question remains: for how long will they continue to live like this without any intervention in sight? In the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
Thank you very much, Aisha Salihu. It was very important that here at News Central we speak and represent the voices of the people, as we always have, and that certainly is a sanitation hazard. Seeing the refuse piling up there, coming to the roads, is a hazard, not just because, honestly, I'm not talking about how people don't want to come to patronize him because of how terribly it smells. Yeah. Someone like me, I will never go to that place to patronize anybody if I have to deal with a terrible smell. But beyond the fact that it's grossly uncomfortable to the nostrils, it's not healthy. When we are talking about cholera, it's things like this that find their way to, seep into the waterways. It is the fact that this refuse also will block drainages. We're getting into the peak of rainy season. July is the peak of rainy season. So if we ensure that if that is not sorted out, what we will see is during the rainy season, the rain will bring all that trash to the roads and spread to other parts. And we hope that by doing this report, we're bringing it to the eye of the Ministry of Environment to ensure that that is sorted out.
I agree with you. Also, the FCT minister is known not to condone any form of dirt or anything that would affect negatively the lives of people. He said it himself. We've seen him talk very tough. We hope that he gets into action this time and let people know that, listen, we're not going to hold back on ensuring that we clarify and make things work, especially for the people. But then again, you just highlighted the rainy season is just around the corner, and should it start heavily, I'm talking about the 3 days rain, 7 days rain, I can only imagine the waste spilling across different homes, houses. Truly, cholera is just around the corner. So the earlier they handle that, the better for the people of that area, people that live within that zone. Thank you so much for that report. Don't forget, News Central will continue to highlight some of the very impactful stories that affects the lives of every single person. But let's move away to another very interesting story. Before we come back to talking about waste management in Lagos State, let's quickly, segue to something that's got to do with the economy once again.
Absolutely. Moving on to the loans, we did talk about this recently, and we're bringing back the conversation again. The Nigerian government, under President Bola Tinubu, recently submitted a request to the National Assembly for approval to secure foreign loans amounting to roughly 45 trillion naira, which is over $24 billion as part of the 2025 budget. Now, this proposal, included in the 2024 to 2026 external borrowing plan, has sparked intense debate with opposition leaders economists, and advocacy groups, raising alarms about the country's growing debt and the unclear use of past borrowed funds. Officials argue that these funds are vital for key areas such as infrastructure, healthcare, education, agriculture, water supply, security, and financial reforms. The administration claims these investments are necessary to tackle Nigeria's infrastructure gaps and compensate for dwindling local funding.
The proposed borrowing represents about 60% of the 2025 budget and is intended to create jobs, boost skills development, encourage entrepreneurship, alleviate poverty, and improve food security. However, the plan has faced significant backlash. If you recall, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has labeled the move irresponsible and perilous, cautioning that it jeopardizes Nigeria's economic future, also stating that this current administration is in the line of borrowing and borrowing and borrowing all over again. But then again, joining us to further break down the impact of this rising debt profile is economist Bola Tinubu. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Before we get into the conversation proper, we had Tokpe Fashwa here on the show, and when we asked him about the impact of this borrowing and where our debt profile stands, he had a response. So let's take a look at this video and then we'll have you react to it.
The thing is that it's a 3-year plan, and the plan is just to say that's the limit, you know. So basically say that you cannot borrow anything that is not inside that plan in terms of the different categories, whether it was federal, state, local government. You can't do more than that. It doesn't mean that you're going to take all of that loan, all of the items that have been listed. Number one. Number two is that, mind you, even if you get a loan from World Bank or IMF for all those kind of people, they usually don't release all the money at once. They always monitor the money. They release in bits. They monitor some more. They release in bits and so on. You know, so that is just the expenditure framework. It is not a new request to go and borrow, unfortunately, as has been presented to the public as if, oh, Tinubu wants to borrow the money. No, it's not going to happen. You know, so in fact, this year we're taking only 1.3 billion of fresh loan dollars. 1.3 billion dollars of fresh loan is the only thing we're taking this year.
All right, Mr. Olojede, let's get your reaction to that answer from him.
Well, a loan is still a loan, irrespective of what amount we're taking this year and what amount we'll be taking next year. So if the loan is 24 billion, but we're taking a little over 1 billion this year, if it is for over 2 years, then it means the rest are expected to be taken over the next 2 years. So the bottom line is the entire amount is meant to be taken over the designated period, and it will come with its effects, with its broadening effect on the finances of the nation. So now it's actually it's approved now anyway. So because there are certain things that will have happened to help us ensure value along that pathway. Number one is at the level of the executive in itself when it was preparing for what we're going to borrow. So certain thoroughness will have gone into it. The second level, of course, is the National Assembly. We should have asked all the right questions to be sure that everything is okay. So are we borrowing for the right purposes? Is there something we don't have to borrow for? Are the terms okay for us? What is the framework for monitoring all the projects that this money is going to be deployed to? And all of that were questions that should have been asked at the level of NAS. I don't know how much of that happened, but that should also be that second layer that will help us ensure that if we get this loan, they will be properly deployed and they will bring benefits to the people. Now it has been approved, so that second level is also now gone. The third level is at the level of performance management, and that is where there is still hope. To say, look, for each amount dedicated to what project or what initiative of the government, what are the clear deliverables that we expect from those things? So if an amount is dedicated to power. I'm just using an example now. Power can be measured. So within which period and what amount of megawatt or what improvement in infrastructure is expected to be delivered, they are measurable. So I'm going to dedicate $2 billion, and at the end of the 2 years, I expect that so megawatt of electricity will have been delivered to the final consumers. That is a measurable thing, and that is a performance management framework. You can take the same thing to road and say, okay, I'm dedicating this much to road infrastructure. So at the end of the period, I expect that this number of kilometers of roads and bridges in these regions of the nation will have been delivered. And then we can also measure. It goes on, even those ones that appear as if they cannot be measured, they can be measured. If you're saying, I'm going to do food for students in some part of the country, the reason why children were being fed in the school system was to increase enrollment. So it is measurable to say when we started, this was the enrollment number. By this end of first year, the enrollment number has increased to this much. So what we need to now emphasize, having the approval has done it, is to be able to have a solid performance management framework that will ensure that these borrowings will deliver on clear benefit, clear measurable benefits for the people.
This IMF borrowing and repayment is still a conversation that's on the front burner. What do you have to say about this? Because when we had Dr. Faswa here, he said, yes, that the current administration has been able to pay off, which is a plus to the president. What's your take on paying off and then still going to borrow? And also, can you shed more light on what this would do to Nigeria's debt profile?
Okay, the loans are discrete loans. They are different loans, and their terms are also different. So some will run out this year, some other ones will run out next year. So that is how it works. So the loan that was paid off has run its own course. And unless it is rolled over or renewed, then if we need more money, we need to get that from either the same lender or other lender. So they are not exactly connected. The one that has been paid off is because it has, by virtue of the terms and conditions of that loan, it is meant to have been paid off, and we have paid it off. Loans are described as non-discretionary expenditure. That is to say, you don't really have an option. You must meet your obligation under those loans. So far, so good. We have done that. But the pressure will start to increase as the loan profile itself goes up. That is where the problem is. So as we are planning to borrow, we have a finance house in our group. And if somebody says, I should approve a credit, there are certain questions I will ask. And one of the critical questions is, how is this loan going to be repaid? So when I'm satisfied with the repayment plan, then I can say, it is okay to process this loan. The same thing applies even in public sector borrowing. So one of the issues is, how do you repay? If you remember the issue of debt to GDP and all the rest, one of the problems with debt to GDP is the fact that you don't pay debt from GDP, you pay it from revenue. So emphasis should be on the revenue. As we are growing the debt profile now, we must be ready to grow the revenue profile of the country, because debt repayment is done from revenue, not from GDP.
Okay.
So it will bring pressure. Yeah.
Yes, so you've said that debt repayment is from revenue and not from GDP. Do we have a structured plan, or is there a recommendation for a structured plan as to how this should be repaid? Are there structured steps that should be taken to ensure the repayment of this? Because from what you said, before you would grant any loan, you need to find out what the plan for repayment is.
I have not seen the details of the request, so I don't know what are the details that have been provided. But I want to assume that there will have been a repayment plan in which government will have, made a forecast of its own revenue and how it will grow it, and how those revenue increase will be able to pay off the loan obligations as and when due. Of course, some of these loans are meant to be deployed into segments of the economy where they will help to drive prosperity in those places. For example, anything you deploy into power. If today we double the volume of grid electricity that are made available to consumers, especially the industrial consumers, that would dovetail into better performance in the economy, and it will generate revenue for the government. If we deploy any portion that is also deployed into revenue generating projects, we also bring revenue for the government. So these are the kind of things that will have gone into the revenue plan to ensure that as those obligations are falling due, we are able to meet them. I've not seen those documents, but I just want to believe that even the National Assembly will have been interested in that, and they probably will have demanded for or raised certain questions in that direction and gotten the answers before those loans were approved.
I mean, you say you haven't seen the document, so we don't really know what the repayment terms are. And many times the government will argue that taking loans, I mean, it's not really a terrible thing within itself, but it's what is the loan used for, how can you account for the loan, and like you said, the repayment of the loan. Given the FX volatility rate, should we be worried about Nigeria's constant, maybe reliance on external loans?
Well, the external loan is a double-edged sword when it comes to FX. When it comes to FX, your concern is probably the fact that because the FX loan, the repayment will also be in FX, and which means some of the FX we earn will have to be deployed to loan repayments. The flip positive side is that the loans themselves, being FX, is an addition to the pool of FX supply within the country, which will help to stabilize our exchange rates. That is a positive side. It is a borrowing, all right, but it's an inflow. It comes in to swell the supply of FX within the system. So it will also help in stability. However, I think what I hear you speak to as far as what you said is still in that performance management side of things. I've seen a lender's report on one of the government loans many years ago. It was for a government enterprise. And that lender's report said that the project was a failure. So it is possible to borrow money, deploy the money, and the underlying project will still be a failure. Therefore, we must have a firm performance management framework that will ensure that this money, as they are deployed, will bring forth those benefits. Otherwise, we might also end up with cases like the one I referred to, in which money was fully deployed, but the underlying project was described as a failure. That is what you don't want to have when you have to go borrow money. Government revenue has been increasing. I hope we can gas down on that growth, both from oil and non-oil. If that happens, then we probably will be able to meet those obligations as I went. But then, we don't have the details yet. We're just hoping that, or trusting that the relevant decision makers are on top of this game.
Permit me to come down to, what I like to call street economics. The local people's economics, where everyone can really understand. Because, looking through some of the comments, some people will say all this grammar of fiscal policy, borrowing, lending is a bit hard for them. So we're going to shift that aside and then now attack this situation the best way possible. So I'm going to take the questions one by one. I would really like it if we can hit the nail on the head with the clarity of answers, and then we move on to the next. So one, the local man on the street is worried how much he is going to end up paying as the government is borrowing. in one of the reports I did see, they said each Nigerian is going to owe about 800 and something naira as the government continues to borrow. So who is going to pay this debt? Is it Mr. Ade on the street or his sons? So they are worried. How can we douse and help them understand that these borrowings, yes, would affect them, but in what way?
I would say they shouldn't panic, because debt has always been there. Public debt is not directly tied down to individual citizens. The individual citizens are not being asked to bring an amount to be deployed towards that repayment. As a matter of fact, when the debt is properly deployed, if properly deployed, it should improve the lot of the citizens. So the citizens should prosper more. When the citizen prosper more, he's able to pay his taxes. And it is that portion of the taxes that will go to repayment of this obligation as the fall due. So citizens should focus on having forums or platforms or channels through which they can continue to ask questions about the underlying deployment of these loans, either via through NGOs, and some NGOs are civil organizations, through the media houses like yourself, that we can continue to have an engagement to determine if the benefits that these loans are being put to are actually coming to manifestation. That should be the focus of the citizens. There will not be a direct request for them to bring certain money to come and repay. As a matter of fact, I am an advocate of the fact that Nigeria is not borrowing enough. But I say that with a clause. The reason we are not able to borrow enough is because our revenue profile is still very poor. We need to do more with revenue profile. It is when we do that we will be able to leverage what we have and get enough money to turn the turbines of this economy as it should be. If you look at I think the topmost economy in Africa now is South Africa. It used to be Nigeria in terms of size. But with South Africa, when you go and look at the revenue profile of South Africa, it's literally about 3-4 times of what Nigeria generates. So if a country of 60 million is able to make 4 times what we are making, and they say we are 200 million or more in this country, it should give us a concern about, we should have a concern about revenue profile. Whatever we need to do to ramp up revenue profile is important. I want to believe that part of why we're taking this debt is to commit them to some of those levers that will help us to drive the revenue profile to the levels that it should be. Our revenue today is still poor, in spite of the fact that it has improved from where it used to be. It's still very low, very low. And that is why we should be careful about our borrowing appetite.
All right, my final question before I hand over to Olive. You also mentioned about performance, ensuring that it is measured. And some of the questions on the street is, how are we certain that the monies that are being borrowed are used for what the borrowing should cover? I'm sure you saw the street lights situation, and Nigerians are still saying, despite the 200 and something million per one street light, Nigeria and some parts are still dark. So how can Nigerians be sure that it would be used for that? And what do you think can be done?
I think we should demand for more information about these loans. What are they being deployed? And then via some structured institutions, we can monitor this. So if the loan detail says 2 billion is going to be deployed to electricity. Electricity for what? Transmission line, generation, blah, blah, blah. What will be the goal? The goal will be to deliver, to step up our production or the ultimate amount of energy that is made available to the consumer from 5,000 megawatts to 10,000 by 2027. That is a clear, measurable thing. And via those structured means, we can continue to demand for the progress, information, in power. I just use power as an example. The same thing can be deployed for literally all the purposes for which the loans are to be deployed. So let's be able to demand for more data. As it is right now, it appears as like a dark hole. Of course, we know the total amount and all that stuff, but we need more information so that the citizens themselves can help the government and support the process to ensure that these loans will be properly deployed and will deliver the benefits they're supposed to deliver.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. We will be following up with this loan. Like you said, Nigeria is not borrowed enough, but let's hope that we're able to see that the gap between the collection of this loan and actual implementation isn't so far. We're seeing a closer gap. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Now moving on to another story. President Bola Tinubu has conferred the national honor of the Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic on billionaire Bill Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft and founder of Gates Foundation. Bill Gates, one of the world's wealthiest men, has revealed that the majority of his $200 billion pledge over the next 20 years will be dedicated to supporting health and developmental initiatives across Africa. He was received by the President, Nigeria's Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Muhammad Ali Pate, and the CEO of Dangote Industries Limited, Aliko Dangote, at the President's residence in Lagos State.
All I need to say is thank you, Bill Gates, for your indivisible commitment to humanity. It is highly remarkable. It's an inspiration to leadership across the world, including the one standing before you. I thank you very much. That's all. It's a great thing to have to honor you.
Beginning period, his friend Alhaji Aliko joined him in an effort to transform lives of our citizens. From that time until now, his foundation and through other channels have invested more than $2 billion of his own capital in various arenas that affect our people directly, whether it's healthcare, agriculture, digital economy, and many others that are to come. Importantly, when he came in northern Nigeria, there were challenges with access to immunization, people refusing because of ignorance. And with Mr. Gates and Alhaji Aliko, they mobilized the entirety of the Northern Traditional Leaders Committee. Northern Traditional Leaders comprise more than 160,000 units within a network across 19 states and the Federal Capital Territory.
Very happy to receive it on behalf of not only myself, but the incredible team at the foundation. From the very beginning, the goal of the foundation has been to help Nigeria improve its health. And Nigeria's always had ambitious goals for improving health. And three of the people here today are great champions of that cause. Of course, the President making health a priority, Muhammad Pate, who we've worked together throughout the great challenges, including, as was mentioned, the incredible progress that was made on polio, and of course Aliko Dangote, who I've gotten to know and share a lot of great work together.
Very interesting story there, and you could say Bill Gates has been part and parcel of Nigeria, whether you look at in any different way which you choose. Well, let's bring a recap to you on what we've discussed so far. So good this first hour here on Breakfast Central. A quick recap. Nigeria's debt crisis. Olajide broke it down for us, looking at the fact that Nigeria still needs to borrow more. Kurudu refuse crisis, a call for help. That's exactly a report that was taken earlier on. And Bill Gates receives Nigeria's national honor. We say congratulations to him and well done for the great job he's doing. Well, let's move on now and tell you that coming up next, we'll be looking at very interesting stories that would still be here on Breakfast Central. One of the major ones is the fact that Lagos State has come forth to ensure that if you are part of those who dump refuse indiscriminately or throw it outside of the car or anyhow, we'll find out what you are going to face. We'll talk about that after the break.
The Lagos State government is taking a hard stance against environmental abuse, rolling out hefty fines and arrests for violators. If you think you can get away with dumping refuse illegally or clogging up drainage systems, well, think again.
Authorities in Lagos appear to have had enough, and as they have imposed a 250,000 naira fine or up to 3 in jail for those caught violating sanitation laws. The government says it's done playing nice, as Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources Atiku Abubakar, while addressing a briefing, made it clear, stating they will be arresting, prosecuting, naming and shaming violators. Well, joining us to discuss this new crackdown on environmental abuse in the state is Special Advisor to the Governor on Environment, Lagos State, Mr. Olakunle Rotimi Akodu. Thank you so much for making time out to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Just for the records, Olive, this was my physics teacher while I was in school. Yeah.
Yes, a great guy there.
Oh, what a full circle moment.
Yes,
Oh, bless.
I was a teacher then. I also attended the same school. But I went back to teach.
Oh, what a full moment.
I taught physics and further mathematics.
Yes.
Oh,
that's exactly what he thought.
Congratulations. I'm sure you're very proud of him.
Very, very proud of him. I walked him this morning.
Thank you so much. Anyway, back with the program. So there's a general statement that Lagos is smelling. I'm sure you've heard that many times. You've heard it so much. And now we have this. What prompted this, and what do Lagosians need to understand? The fine, 250,000 and so on and so forth.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me once again. Good morning, good morning. Obviously, you know the state we find ourselves. Lagos is the attraction of all. Everyone wants to be in Lagos for survival, for business reasons. Lagos is loved by many, within and outside of Lagos. And when you find yourself in a situation like that, then law and order takes preeminence. Else, it becomes a rowdy place, a place without, regulation, obviously, but like my commissioner would say, an aberration state. where life becomes what? Brutish, nasty and short. So in order not to get ourselves into such state, we have to ensure that we play by the rules, we bring into force the appropriate laws and orders. I deliberately use the word appropriate because as time changes, some certain things must change along with it in terms of rules of engagement. The laws, the orders, the penalties must also, reflect current realities, of the time. So that's why we find ourselves in this situation, and we're proud to say we're doing well.
Okay, so what are the specific infractions that the state is targeting when it comes to environmental abuse, and then the punitive measures for such?
Yeah, thank you. The 2017 Environmental Law, Management Law, is very clear on all of these things. The infractions, waste dumping, pollution, you understand, releasing harmful substances into the environment, pollution to the air, to the water, to the land, you understand, and all of these infractions, the law frowned at it, and there are provisions for punitives, that if you are caught, in the web of these infractions, there is a leg of the law that made provisions for those penalties to be, applied, sanctions, so that this is to deter others from, and to ensure that we protect, the population density of Lagos is quite high. So if you are not careful, health hazards.
Okay, this law that you're referring to, are you saying that it has different punitive measures for different infractions?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So what would you say has been the greatest challenge with implementation of this law, seeing that it's not a new law?
Well, it's population. You keep making arrests for street trading alone. We have prosecuted close to 4,000. Yes, violators, and it still seems like we've not done anything. You still go out there, and you still find them. So we keep bringing them in, applying sanctions appropriately, where need be fines, where you become a serial offender. When you are not a first-time offender, then it can now be fine and imprisonment. So it's either fine or both, fine and imprisonment, as the case may be. So you find people that you have arrested going back there because they feel the penalties are mild. It's something they can just shake off and go back there. And this is why we need to, tune it up. We have to bring it up so that people, if you can't do the time, you don't do the crime. Yeah. You get it? So that's the whole idea. And when you say offenses that we find most common, they are all there. You want to talk about like dumping of refuse indiscriminately. You want to talk about industrial violation of, of these provisions. When you have industrial, premises discharging waste in a non-environmentally friendly manner to the public, discharging very, very deleterious substances to the public, and believing that no one is seeing them. Once it's around 8, 9, when they believe everyone has gone to bed,
it's dark.
That's when they discharge their, effluent. Very, very poisonous and hazardous to the public. So we have them in numbers, and we make sure that we have our eyes on all of them, because our officials keep moving, conducting tests, on the discharges, even on the open water. If we discover that this water is contaminated one way or the other, we have to trace the source of that pollutant. You understand? And you discover that often than not, we get them. Wow. We get them, we apply the appropriate sanctions as a when due.
We saw a statement that Lagos State is going back to the environmental sanitation.
Yeah.
There's a mixed reaction to that. Some are saying, why go back to environmental sanitation when the appropriate measures have not been put in place, especially during the weekdays? Why now go back to it? And how effective do you think environmental sanitation?
Thank you. I don't understand what that person meant by appropriate measures.
Like if only Saturdays, once a month, at the end of the day, when they pack the waste and keep them, and nobody comes to collect them, so it heaps and keeps going up and up. So there's no.
Firstly, let me start from here. You see, bulk of the main challenge that we have is attitude now. People have this brazen attitude of nothing will happen. They will commit infractions as they feel, as they wish, and nothing will fall. No consequences. Then you see that even when you correct them, by nature, they have become so addicted to that habit that even sometimes I just see some people, they just toss waste on the road or water sachet. I tell them, no, go and pick it. Oh, I'm sorry. They don't know who I am. But they just feel, oh, they shouldn't do that. But they are carried away. They have become so, it has gotten into them. They have assimilated that habit, that brazen habit. So when you bring back the sanitation, exercise monthly, it brings back to consciousness of the people that, look, we need to engage in cleaning. So if for that alone, we need it. Now, secondly, apart from remolding the people, you look at it again, the volume of waste that you see being collected on those environmental sanitation days, people take time to clean their surroundings, clean their environment, you understand? Take it to a place that both the state and local government have deployed, machineries to collect those things and take them to the right places and dispose appropriately, you understand? So, in every sense of it, we need it, and it's going to help. People are saying Lagos is smelling. You understand? We need to have a collective stand and approach to this, to all of this, and ensure that, we bring back, they said cleanliness is next to godliness. So we have to encourage our people to go back to that. So we need it as a state. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, people are yearning. I've seen people yearning that you people bring back this. We almost
back at some point.
At some point. But we went back, and for one or two reasons, we have to get everything right.
So what would the structure and the format of this be? Because if I remember correctly, there was also a case of the government being taken to court because they felt like environmental sanitation was restricting the right to freedom of movement.
Yes, we've long passed that one. The fellow took the state to court to say, look, freedom of movement. And if you look at the judgment at the end of the day, it favors the state. Now, where your own right stops is where someone else's own begins. And you are an individual. If collectively we're saying this is what we want to do, you understand? You're on your own. And if you look at the judgment, eventually favors the state. So meaning that we can just carry on.
So the judgment did not say that.
Now what we want to do is to foster a situation where someone else will now say, we want to make sure that the timing will be brief, the operations or the activities will be effective, meaningful, sensible, and communicate something to the public. Tidiness, neatness. Let's keep our surroundings clean. Let's maintain a high level of sanity and cleanliness.
I just want to confirm, because I think I may have gotten it, but I did see that the Lagos State Court of Appeal ruling had said that the movement of people should not be restricted as a result of that. I don't know if you can help.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you. Yeah. But this is what I'm saying. We went back and sat down. How can we do this? We have a target, we have a goal. The goal is to get our people into the mood of, that tidiness, that cleanliness, and to see that our environment is clean. How do we achieve this without rubbing off on other? And this is why we went back and sat down. So we are coming back again very soon with this same program in a way, a manner that you all love it. It's going to be something that you all accept that we need, and this is the best way to go about it. We're consulting, advocacy is ongoing, a lot of education, environmental education is ongoing. We've been to schools, we've been to marketplaces, even corporate world, we're engaging them on this. And they are all saying, look, you guys need to come back again with this. You guys need to come back. It's long overdue. You have to come back. And that is why we will come back very soon. Mr. Governor, he is a man of peace. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. So, and he doesn't want anybody feeling aggrieved. But it's inevitable. When you're a governor of over 22 million people, there's no waste, there's going to be somebody somewhere that want to say no, otherwise, even for the sake of being a star.
Right. Okay, let's talk also another thing that contributes to the waste challenges in Lagos is the use of single-use plastic.
Yeah.
And there's been the announcement of the ban. Some supermarkets have taken the cue to ensure that if you want to use plastic bags, you pay more. They don't even allow the use of plastic bags, they now use paper bags.
Yes.
So can you give us a broader picture of this ban? I hear that it will be kicking off on the 1st of July,
yes.
that there's been a transition period for manufacturers.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how do we intend to implement it in a state where the manufacturers are complaining about the cost of production? Some argue that, saying, for example, that they should not use single-use plastic in certain businesses with the current economic climate might not be sensitive to the needs and the wants of the average Nigerian business person who's just trying to make ends meet.
Well, thank you. We are not just starting that. The banning of single-use plastic had commenced a year ago. We started out with styrofoam. Yeah. And some people came out, complained, shouted, this is what's convenient for us. The change is people fear change because of the unknown. They don't know, they will not be sure that after this, what will they do? But before this, what were you using? What were you doing? Were people not surviving on something? This came in the quest for convenience. Let me just quickly use it to eat and toss it somewhere. But cumulatively, we've seen that it's doing more harm than good. And in the wisdom of the state, we decided to ban it in tune with world reality, global reality. You understand? Now, we banned the styrofoam, and the results are positive. You can see that if it rains now, you can hardly see those things clogging our waterways. And you can see that the floods are becoming just mere flash flooding. Under hours, it's gone. 1 hour, at most 2 hours, these floods are gone. If it rains heavily now, you see floods. And before people are there, there's flood. Before you know it, the floods are all gone back.
We've not gotten into the peak of rainy season, though. So maybe it's too early to rejoice.
But the ones we've witnessed, prior to this time, little intensity of rain, everywhere is blocked. And for days, you see the water, blocked, couldn't go, become stagnant pool of water. But now, before you know it, once it rains, the noise is there, under an hour or two, it's gone. We are measuring. And you know what? You cannot manage what you can't measure. So, for us to be able to manage the system, we should have our own measurement. So we're measuring success rate, we're measuring impact, and we're sure that ban on styrofoam is a positive move. And now it's not just styrofoam. There are other single-use plastics that we ought to have banned along with styrofoam. But because we have to allow...
Is pure water there?
No.
Okay.
For now.
Because that's a clarity. Everyone
yes,
on social media is saying
it's not because we found a means, to manage pure water with sachet. You can see people are now going around collecting it. You see,
it's being recycled.
Yes, being recycled, used for some other things. You see, they now put it in bale and build it. You see, even the bottled water, yeah, they are collecting it.
The PET bottles.
And we have policies in place to put all of those in check. We have the polluter pay principle. You see, if you pollute, then you'll be responsible for that pollution. You have to take care of it from the environment. You have to, if you introduce it, somebody manufactured this for their own business essence.
Yes.
And once you bring it to the public, then you should be responsible for the withdrawal.
Okay, just as it's done abroad as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have means of doing that. Then producers extended responsibilities. That is why we will come back very soon. You know, Mr. Governor, he is a man of peace. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. So, and he doesn't want anybody feeling aggrieved. But it's inevitable. When you are a governor of over 22 million people, there's no waste, there's going to be somebody somewhere that want to say no, otherwise, even for the sake of being a star.
Right. Okay, let's talk also another thing that contributes to the waste challenges in Lagos is the use of single-use plastic.
Yeah.
And there's been the announcement of the ban. Some supermarkets have taken the cue to ensure that if you want to use plastic bags, you pay more. They don't even allow the use of plastic bags, they now use paper bags.
Yes.
So can you give us a broader picture of this ban? I hear that it will be kicking off on the 1st of July,
yes,
that there's been a transition period for manufacturers.
Yes,
so
yes,
how do we intend to implement it in a state where the manufacturers are complaining about the cost of production? Some argue that, saying, for example, that they should not use single-use plastic in certain businesses with the current economic climate might not be sensitive to the needs and the wants of the average Nigerian business person who's just trying to make ends meet.
Well, thank you. We are not just starting that. The banning of single-use plastic had commenced a year ago. We started out with styrofoam. Yeah. And some people came out, complained, shouted, this is what's convenient for us. You know, the change is people fear change because of the unknown. They don't know, they will not be sure that after this, what will they do? But before this, what were you using? What were you doing? Were people not surviving on something? This came in the quest for convenience. Then we just quickly use it to eat and toss it somewhere. But cumulatively, we've seen that it's doing more harm than good. And in the wisdom of the state, we decided to ban it in tune with world reality, global reality. You understand? Now, we banned the styrofoam, and the results are positive. You can see that if it rains now, you can hardly see those things clogging our waterways. And you can see that the floods are becoming just mere flash flooding. Under hours, it's gone. 1 hour, at most 2 hours, these floods are gone. If it rains heavily now, you see floods. And before people are there, there's flood. Before you know it, the floods are all gone back.
We've not gotten into the peak of rainy season, though. So maybe it's too early to rejoice.
But the ones we've witnessed, I mean, prior to this time, little intensity of rain, everywhere is blocked. And for days, you see the water, blocked, couldn't go, become stagnant pool of water. But now, before you know it, once it rains, the noise is there, under an hour or two, it's gone. We are measuring. And you know what? You cannot manage what you can't measure. So, for us to be able to manage the system, we should have our own measurement. So we're measuring success rate, we're measuring impact, and we're sure that ban on styrofoam is a positive move. And now it's not just styrofoam. There are other single-use plastics that we ought to have banned along with styrofoam. But because we have to allow...
Is pure water there?
No.
Okay.
For now.
Because that's a clarity. Everyone on social media is saying,
it's not, because we found a means, to manage pure water with sachet. You can see people are now going around collecting it. You see,
it's being recycled.
Yes, being recycled, used for some other things. You see, they now put it in bale and build it. You see, even the bottled water, yeah, they are collecting it.
The PET bottles.
And we have policies in place to put all of those in check. We have the polluter pay principle. You see, if you pollute, then you'll be responsible for that pollution. You have to take care of it from the environment. You have to, if you introduce it, somebody manufactured this for their own business essence.
Yes.
And once you bring it to the public, then you should be responsible for the withdrawal.
Okay, just as it's done abroad as well.
Yes. Yeah. So we have means of doing that. Then producers extended responsibilities. You understand? That is also there. So we're taking care of that. Now, the ones that we're banning now, we're very clear with them. These are single-use plastics that are basically less than 40 microns in terms of thickness. It starts with the poly bag, the lino bag, those light ones. That you see people just use it and immediately they toss it away. If you see the very thick ones that are higher than 40 microns, people use it and keep it.
Yes.
They take it back to use it again. This is what we want, reuse. You understand? But those ones that are light, very light.
For bread and egg.
Yes, you just see, once they use it to buy stuff, they toss it away. And these things are going, you think you are done with it, but it's commencing a new chain of atrocities to the environment. Absolutely. So those ones are now banned, along with these plastic spoons, you understand, straws, that are light ones that people don't use a second time.
And people don't even understand the depth of how long it takes for these plastics to break down. They break down into microplastics and
it takes over 500 years. Yeah. That's how many generations. And the damage, you can imagine the extended damages.
I know our time left is very short, but I want us to focus on these few questions very quickly. What is the Lagos State environment? What are you doing regarding beggars in the state? I mean, if you go towards Lekki, if you go towards Lekki Ajah, we do hear some parts of the mainland. You find them destitute. There are many. I do recall some years back in India, some of their bridges, one of their most popular bridges, I can't remember the name now, I don't know if it's in Mumbai or where, they had to fix it because they said too much population that were plying that bridge, using the bridge, they were always spitting on it, and they found out that they had destitutes, and then they banned spitting on the bridge because, through science, they found out that it decomposes, affects the bridge. So we've seen numbers of destitutes in Lagos, beggars everywhere. And these people who constitute, they are the ones who will use these plastics and so on, just to survive. So if you're going to bring a fine, what are you going to do to those people who constitute a huge percentage of the contributors to the problem?
It will be a problem, by the grace of God. We have a ministry of Youth and Social Welfare, and they are working assiduously right now to see that they put that to an end. We've been able to tackle it at some point during Governor Fashola's era.
Exactly. And I was an eyewitness.
And you see when beggars see state officials, you'll be surprised how they run. And before you know it, they are all off the road. Now, just for the religious aspect of it, people that want to give harm, a place was established at Iputemeta, Okobaba, and put them there. The ones that are cleared to stay can be here. Anybody that feels like giving harms or something, go there, go and do it. They have to be on the road. So we can, somewhere along the line, we drop the ball. You understand? And that ministry is doing so much with environment to see that we clear them out. We're preparing the place where we keep them. And very, very soon, it will be done, and that will become history.
And the scavengers as well?
Already the scavengers, we are dealing with that. And we're picking scavengers day and night. If you need videos, we can show you videos day and night. We're picking them. Even those, perching on the pedestrian bridges, and we pick them as often as we get them.
Okay.
And once they see environment coming, all of them running also skate out.
All right. I think there's important information. We've come to the end of the show, but while we were on commercial break, before we came live, we're talking about people tossing things out of their cars, and you gave a suggestion. I'd like you to share that suggestion live. Yeah,
I've always said it. When you see something, say something. Don't just say, do something. You see, when you say, hey, don't do it, that's not enough. Bring out your camera. Get them in the act for us. One has just been fruitful that we all witness.
Yeah.
Once we can't be everywhere. You are supposed to stand in for me. I should stand in for you.
Right.
So just ensure that you give us clue that can lead us to pinning that person.
Yes. So just a reminder to all of us.
Yes, that will be all.
It's a collective effort.
You'll be proud of us.
A collective effort.
So the plate number usually.
All right.
Just quickly snap it and send it.
Thank you so much. Special advisor to the Governor of Environment, Governor of Lagos State on Environment. We have Olakunle Rotimi Akodo. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. We'll be moving on from Lagos State to Rivers State. We've got a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll be exploring what the latest in Rivers State is regarding the meeting of the governor, the suspended governor, with our president, as well as the appointment of 11 new permanent secretaries by the sole administrator. All this after the break.
Welcome back. President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday held a closed-door meeting with suspended Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara at his private residence in Lagos. This meeting comes after months of political turmoil in Rivers State, following Tinubu's declaration of emergency rule in March, which saw Fubara removed from office alongside his deputy and the entire State House of Assembly. Rivers State was a political battleground for months, with the crisis stemming from a bitter feud between Governor Fubara and his former political mentor, Nyesom Wike, now Minister of the Federal Capital Territory.
The fallout led to a divided state legislature, escalating tensions, and ultimately Tinubu stepping in to impose the emergency rule. Now, with Fubara meeting Tinubu, speculation is rife. Could this be a reconciliation attempt and negotiation for his return? A day after the meeting between both men, the sole administrator of Rivers State, Vice Admiral Ibokete appointed 11 new perm secs to run the affairs of ministries in the state. Now, the big questions we're asking today is, what was discussed behind those closed doors? And more importantly, what does this mean for the future of Rivers State? Joining us for this discussion this morning is the Chairman, Ikwere Local Government Area of Rivers State, Samuel Nwanosike. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on your platform.
Thank you. Well,
let me apologize for yesterday.
No, it's okay.
I had a flight, and I thought I would have been able to make it, but you know how the aviation sector is. It's still a work in progress.
Absolutely.
So I'm very sorry.
Thank you for making it up to us today. So now that we've seen the photos of the president and the suspended governor of Rivers State, and there isn't any official communique as to what was happening or what was discussed behind closed doors, do you get a sense of what we are to make of this meeting?
Then I should be a superhuman being if so. That means I will have extra powers to be able to do so. But as far as we are concerned, we thank God for the leader that God has given to us as Nigerians. It's the first time we're having a true politician and a Democrat as the head of this nation. And you can see that he's hands-on on his job, and he's making sure Nigeria is being steered with a wonderful compass for the right direction. Even when he inherited a very disastrous economy and state of polity, he has made sure he has used his wealth of wisdom and experience in the political play to see that Nigeria is moving to the right direction. He's not saying, no, this is not my political party system. I have no business with what's happening in that political party, like other leaders would want to say. He's doing everything to make sure that there's peace in our state. And I want to use this opportunity on behalf of the good people of my local government and my family to thank Mr. President for making sure he took steps to avert the crisis that probably would have besieged us as Rivers people. A lot of people who come on public spaces to speak about what was going on in Rivers State, I can say they don't really understand because they live here in Rivers State. They speak from what they see in social media. But we that are here who wear the shoes, we understand where it reaches us. So I want to say thank you to Mr. President for what he's been doing, and to tell the entire world that Rivers State is stable now. And I know by the grace of God, sooner or no time, Rivers State will come back to a proper democratic setting.
But some have said, and to make it all clear, even residents in Rivers State, be it pro and those who are not, Fubara, have said that there was no crisis, there was nothing, and the state had been peaceful, that this was purely a political move. How do you balance that with the fact that, you know, there are expectations that the governor should return back to the democratic setting?
I know that even you who is asking me this question have answers to it already, because you followed through these issues, you followed through all the incidents, you reported these issues. In fact, your station had the opportunity of coming to do a town hall meeting in our state, even if I wasn't invited.
I heard you were invited. I heard you were invited.
I was not invited. I was in Port Harcourt. I was not invited.
Apologies for that.
To your organizers. If I was invited, I would have come there to make my ideas and my voice known. It's not too far from where I live. I was in town when it was happening, but I don't go to events that I'm not invited.
That must have been an oversight. We apologize for that.
I should be able to manage my activities and my timing. So you know that what those people were saying, what those people are saying is not correct. You see, when they said when a witch cries in the night and the child dies in the morning, you don't need any native doctor or any prophet to explain to you what happened that led to the death of my child. I don't want to bother myself with such statements. You already have the answer. Nigerians already know the truth.
All right. Just to add more questions to what's ongoing, do you suggest that now that we have 4 months to go since the sole administrator took office, what's your take on his recent appointment of permanent secretaries, 11 of them? What's your take on that?
First of all, the proclamation gives him the power to put out policies and programs that can be able to steer the ship of the state while we're in the state of emergency. And if he wants to set the report straight and to make sure that he leaves a legacy remembered for, because whatever he does today in Rivers State will stand for him and his family name. He needs to get those who he believes that can be able to make his programs and policies of achieving peace work for him. So it is left for him to do the things that he believes that can help him achieve the peace that he's seeking for in River State. So it's well under his control by the Proclamation Act to do so.
Right. Let's also then talk about the speculations that we're hearing. You're on ground. We're not in River State. We're not quite sure what to make of this. But there are those who are assuming or alleging that there is a plan for the suspended governor to change and move to another political party, the other one in this case being the All Progressives Congress. Do you see that as a possibility?
Well, first of all, the governor is a human being. The suspended governor, I mean, is a human being. He has what his steps are to him to take to be able to achieve his results. I can't think for him. I can imagine. I can't sit where I am and be imagining what my fellow man wants to do. It's when he takes those steps and then the results are out there, we will not know. Like there's a proverb in my area that said, when two people go in behind the doors to conspire and come out, that conspiracy is a liar because their actions will make us know what they conspire behind closed doors. So as far as we are concerned, the suspended governor has his moves to make. He's a human being. He knows where the shoe pinches him, and it's left for him to take the steps to help him solve his problem. He's the one that has headache, and he's the one that will go to the physician to make the actual complaint so that the physician will know how to diagnose him properly.
You said you can't tell what exactly he wants to do and if this is a part of his plan. But in the assumption that this might be a part of the plan in the future, do you think that the APC, for example, will be able to welcome him? And I ask this because we recently saw a clip of some APC members who had said that the family of the Adelekes are not in any way welcome to the APC. There isn't any slot for them. Do you think that that might be a welcome development, that the APC will be open to that?
I don't belong to the APC. I'm a member of the People's Democratic Party. I don't know what they will say. I don't know what they think. For me, I am in the renewed hope agenda because I believe in Bola Tinubu, his programs and his policies, and I believe in equity, fairness, and justice. And I believe that this is the time of the South to produce a president. And I stand by my leader, my boss, my political principal, Ezeboye Sowike. We all worked seriously to make sure President Bola Tinubu wins our states, our local government, our ward, and our units. So as far as we are concerned, what happens to the APC, we don't know. We can't pretend or speculate that we know. APC is a big political family. They have their steps, they have their programs and policies. But for us, we are supporting them because we can see that the leader of APC, who is President Bola Tinubu, means well for this nation, Nigeria. And so whatever they decide, I think is going to be for the good of their party. And all we know is that come this 2027, we will still support President Bola Tinubu because we are seeing what is even happening in our own political party. That greed of men is killing our party and is destroying our party at the national level. And so that is our focus. We are here in People's Democratic Party. We are moving nowhere. We'll sit down here to do our internal wranglings and make sure our party is built. But for 2027, we have made it clear to everybody that we are continuing with the South-South project. We are continuing with the renewed hub agenda, and we believe in Mr. President. So whatever APC wishes to do, whoever they wants to align to the party, is their sole business. It has nothing to do with me, and I can't decide for them.
Mr. Once again, are you not, worried that members of your party are also concerned where they see that some members of the PDP are with the APC, but yet they still remain with the PDP? Why can't they just move to the APC like every other person is doing? After all, it's open season, and people are cross-carpeting, or like they would say in football, there's transfer window. This time, maybe a political transfer window. Don't you think it's time that people just move from their party completely and just form the alliance with the APC and go ahead?
Politics all over the world is a game of agreements, and it is not the first time in the history of politics that different political parties are coming together to run a government. Political parties are vehicles to achieve political offices. What's important to Nigerians is delivering the dividends of democracy to the people of Nigeria. And as far as we are concerned also, if somebody like our BOT chairman, who is from Abia State, we tell you that as far as he's concerned, he states that the Labour Party governor is doing very well and should continue in office in 2027. So why are we raising hula baloo over nothing? It is our right as Nigerians to say who support, who give our votes. That's why it's secret ballot system. Even if I don't say so now, and I believe in my heart that this is what I want to do, I'll do it. Especially, we have in our political party, it's not the first time that leaders of our political party have gone to vote candidates of their choice. We've had a former governor of Niger State who came on air and said he was part of those who made sure Jonathan didn't win election in 2015. And heaven did not fall. He still remains a critical member of our party. We also have the likes of Atiku Abubakar, the former Vice President of Nigeria, who worked out on our party and formed the NPDP, who collided, who conspired with the then ACN and CPC to form APC we have today, to make sure that Goodluck Jonathan, who was the Southern president, don't win that election. So I don't see why people believe that they are first-class citizens and others are second-class citizens. I am not a second-class citizen in this nation. I'm a freeborn. My both parents are Nigerians. I was born and raised in Nigeria. I'm married and my kids are all Nigerians. And I can tell you that I have the rights by the Constitution of Nigeria to associate with whoever I want to. If I want to leave PDP, I will go to my leaders and I'll give them the reason why I want to leave PDP. But for now, I am in PDP. I am behind the policies and programs of my leader, Eboye Wike, because I am convinced that he is the true defender of democracy. He is the right person. He is the one taking the right steps to rebuild our People's Democratic Party, because he is following his actions by the rule of law and the provision of the constitution of our party and the constitution of Nigeria. So those who are allowing greed of wanting to run election at all times, making sure that the party constitution is not followed to destroy the party. Those who took steps in 2023 to want to keep the national chairmanship position and the presidential tickets to same north, even when it's not the northern era to run for presidency. Because in PDP, it's clear. Our zoning of political offices is enshrined in our constitution, and it's written we zone south and we zone north. And so now is the time of the Southerners, and the Southern president is doing well. He's even doing better than all those other presidents that have come from the north put together. And we have no reason to say no, he wants a change. Bola Tinubu is the right person, and he's doing the policies and programs that are bettering our economy. We are seeing for ourselves the results of all his actions and steps. Though difficult, but there are results that should be taken. I've had the opportunity of speaking to leaders all over the world at different fora, and they have said this is the first time Nigeria is taking steps to become the actual giant of Africa. Anybody can cry or make any threat or say whatever they want to say because they are out of power today. You can imagine a situation where somebody who mismanaged the resources of River State, who sold our gas turbines, who sold our gas turbines and the funds disappeared from Access Bank without an address in less than 2 weeks of those days, will come on national television and say he's a Democrat and that he's hungry. You know, it's an embarrassment of the highest order. And he will come in an rights program and say he doesn't want to talk to children. This is the same man that came before my ethnic group where we were seated as an Ikwere person. I am from Ikwere local government. Rotimi Chibika, I mentioned the former governor of River State, is an Ikwere local government man. In his village is the worst hit by his actions as a sitting governor. Under his word, contractors were being assassinated and buried on shallow graves. In his village, those he gave contracts to work, Lebanese contractors were murdered, and he did nothing. It took the effort of the boys on weekend and myself as chairman of the local government to return his sacked village back to the Ubima community. Today, after wasting our resources as governor, super governor, and chairman of governors forum, he will come to the public and say he's doing coalition. Coalition because he was being out of power. We are waiting for him to come back home and come and tell us what he's coaliting. And this time around, Nigerians will see what the voice and the mindset of the people does when a leader takes them for granted.
That one, the former governor doesn't have the right to say so, and besides that, he also said that he was the reason why Governor Nyesom Wike is what he is today, because as also a former governor, he was able to do things in the Ikore local government. I mean, are you disputing that in any way?
Listen, since I left university, in fact, from university, I've been in this process since the return of democracy in 1998. I've never left People's Democratic Party, and I'm a stakeholder in my local government. I rose from becoming a councillor to becoming the spokesperson of People's Democratic Party in my state, and to becoming a two-time local government chairman of Ikore local government, where Rotimi Amechi comes from. Ubima, his ward is called Ward 8, while my own ward, Oma, Ward 9, we are just boundary neighbors. I can tell you, if not for Ezeboye Sowike, who mortgaged his own living house, Rotimi Amechi couldn't have been governor of River State. The history are there. We have a record that we can send to you to play for Nigerians to see. Rotimi Amechi's statements in 2007. I will remember 2007, when he returned from his journey outside the country. Because if you remember, when the crisis broke out, Rotimi Amechi was being chased by EFCC, and he left town. Rotimi never stepped his foot in Nigeria. He was outside this country. In fact, he even wished, he wanted to join the late president's government, Yaradua. He accepted to become the ambassador of Nigeria to China. But we, led by Ezeboye Sowike then, because we had an organization called Ikore Youth Movement and INF, Ikore National Front, we insisted that he was the right candidate and that we're not going to step down from that pursuit. Then governor who left, former governor Odele, persuaded us that now our brother Celestine Omeya was governor, that we should drop the case. We said no. We followed that case, led by Ezeboye Sowike, and made sure Supreme Court gave that judgment that Rotimi Amechi came into office. Rotimi Amechi never knew how cases were filed for him. He never knew how lawyers were moved to court. It was Ezeboye Sowike that did everything. Yes, Rotimi Amechi came to the public in a church, he's a Catholic, in his church, CFC church, and said that people should thank God for a man like Ezeboye Sowike. It's on clip, it's recorded by it, because that program was live. And he said he had never seen a man who will give his all for his fellow man. That even him, he cannot do this for his own brother, but God should not forgive him any day he does anything bad to Ezeboye Sowike. What is this telling people? We are part of the family. I was in the family, and I know what transpired. And that is why when he started behaving the way he was behaving, I said, I went to him as his younger brother. I said, sir, you can't do this to the same man who you told us that did all for you to become governor. Why would you want to play him? Why would you want to treat him this way? I will not support you. I rather will support that man. That's why today I will remain grateful for Ezeboye Sowike, because not for Ezeboye Sowike that was Rabbi Rotimi Amechi as governor of River State. In fact, to even move further, his second tenure election, who was his campaign DG? It was Ezeboye Sowike. He went around the entire state and reconciled every aggrieved politician, including the politician Rotimi Amechi offended. That's why he had a second tenure that was like a walking back. Today, he knows he has lost all his political structures. All his followers have come to realize that Ezeboye Sowike is the one that really means well for the people of River State. That is why you can see people will tell you that this Oboye Sowike is controlling the leadership of all the politicians in Rivers State. It is because he stands for the truth. And I challenge my elder brother, let's a public debate. I will bring reports to show that he is indebted to his Oboye Sowike. So coming to tell people that he's doing coalition with Atiku Abubakar is an embarrassment to himself. He would have just done his 60th birthday and worked out. Well, he told us he's done with politics, that he's not a lawyer, he's going to be practicing his law. But we are shocked to see that he said he's doing coalition with Atiku and El-Rufai. We are waiting for him to come home. He's not to do coalition in Abuja. In fact, he's no match to any politician in this current dispensation. He's just going to arrest, as far as I'm concerned. A politician that has no foundation. Who is going to follow him? He should come and come for this committee. Now let's see who will follow him.
Samuel Wanosike, thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. A lot has been said. We talked about reversing. I think on the final note, my question would be your general sense of the direction of the People's Democratic Party, not just in reversing, but at the federal level. You've talked about how you've never left the People's Democratic Party, since for years. You've always been a member of the People's Democratic Party. What are your thoughts regarding, and if you can answer in 30 seconds, please, your thoughts regarding the projections for People's Democratic Party in the nearest future and in the coming elections?
People's Democratic Party should come down from their high horse. Our leaders should govern us by our constitution and the rule of law. If Supreme Court has said Sam Ayaw is the secretary of the party, and that is only the National Convention that can ease him out, because that is how he came into office. What is there? Election, National Convention election will be maybe next year. Why not allow him do his duties to stop these embarrassments that they are pushing us towards? And so as far as I'm concerned, leaders like the governor of Enugu State, Peter Mba, in fact, I've not even had that name in our party. And I was shocked when I hear now that he's the governor and he's the one coming to say all the things he's saying. That ENEC has told him the secretary of the party is Samuel Ayaw, and he wants to sit down in Enugu and produce his own secretary. Well, whenever he takes PDP to, we will follow him. When we fall into that ditch, all of us will look for a way to come out. But for now, we remain members of People's Democratic Party.
Thank you very much for your thoughts with us, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning on the show. We look forward to having you again. Okay, it's been quite a conversation looking at Rivers State's projections for where they are and where they're headed to, as well as the People's Democratic Party. But now we're bringing you breakfast headlines. But let's share with you what's still to come. Still to come on Breakfast Central, the newspaper front pages, as we do every morning, and then we'll open the phone lines. And we'll also be bringing you what Nigerians are saying. But now we'll share with you what's happening later today. But first, let's bring you breakfast headlines.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. Let's begin breakfast headlines and tell you that the Eid al-Kabir celebration, where the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps has deployed over 28,000 operatives across the country to ensure a peaceful and secure holiday period. NSCDC Commandant General Dr. Ahmed Audi said the large-scale deployment was part of the Corps' ongoing efforts to protect critical national assets and infrastructure, as well as to safeguard lives and property across the nation. He warned of the potential for criminal activities during the festive period and stressed the need to forestall any threats posed by unscrupulous elements. Audi also charged the 36 state commandants and the FCT command to foster effective synergy and collaboration with other security agencies and local communities. In the meantime, Niger State Governor Umaru Bago has cancelled all Eid al-Kabir activities in the state to honor victims of the recent flood in Mokwa local government area. 3 bridges in the area were submerged and destroyed, posing a logistics nightmare for humanitarian workers. In a statement issued by Abubakar Usman, secretary to the Niger State government, Bago directed low-key Eid al-Kabir celebrations in Emirates across the state. The Niger State governor suspended Hawan, Bariki, Durbar and other Salah-related activities. Meanwhile, following the devastating flood that destroyed lives and property and left hundreds displaced in Mokwa, the federal government has approved 2 billion naira for reconstruction and relocation efforts. Vice President Kashim Shettima, during a visit to Mokwa, conveyed President Tinubu's commitment to addressing the issues affecting the people. The president also authorized the immediate release of 20 trucks of rice to be delivered to the flood victims. Over 200 bodies have been recovered after the flood wreaked havoc in communities in Mokwa. President Bola Tinubu has held a private meeting with Pastor Tunde Bakare, the serving overseer of the Citadel Global Community Church, to discuss Nigeria's development and future direction. The meeting, which took place on Wednesday in Lagos, was confirmed in a post by presidential aide Bayo Onanuga. Although the details of the discussion were also not made public, sources say the focus was on fostering unity and strengthening collaboration among Nigeria's diverse regions to drive peace and progress. Bakare expressed optimism about seeing a well-functioning Nigeria in his lifetime. He also noted that while he may share ideas, the implementation ultimately rests with the president. The meeting follows weeks of public criticism directed at Bakare by members of the Senate over comments he made about the 10th National Assembly.
Well, it's not about just reservations. It's about how the country will go well. My life personal vision is to see a nation that works in my lifetime. And those things I've discussed with Mr. President. They're not hidden things, but I've learned that when you discuss with the person in charge, you leave it with him to do whatsoever he wills with what you have suggested. So I've had a private conversation with Mr. President, and I'm glad that he received me well, and I trust that God will help our nation. What transpired in my discussion with him stays with me and with him. God guiding him and giving him wisdom will help this nation not to slide or go down the drain, but to bounce back so that it can leave a mark that cannot be erased. Well, I like to see a peaceful nation. I like to see Nigerians being their brother's keeper. I like to see good collaboration between the best of the North and the best of the South to steer Nigeria in the right direction. I like to see predictable progress in our nation. We have danced around some subjects for too long a time. It's time to take concrete action to ensure that the masses of our country do not live in abject poverty.
Let's also tell you that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has declared 2 more individuals wanted in connection with an alleged cryptocurrency fraud scheme linked to the collapsed digital trading platform Crypto Bridge Exchange. The latest development brings the total number of individuals declared wanted in connection with the CBEX fraud to 12. In a notice issued via its official social media channels, the anti-graft agency identified the suspects as Folashade Odelana and Bamidele Ayodele Abiodu, 32. Both individuals were accused of orchestrating fraudulent activities on the platform, which reportedly led to substantial financial losses for unsuspecting investors. Let's go outside Nigeria now. A cargo plane was bombed shortly after landing at a paramilitary-controlled airport in Sudan's western Darfur region. The airport in Yala, the South Darfur state capital, has in recent weeks come under repeated airstrikes by the Sudanese military at war with the paramilitary rapid support forces since April 2023. Early last month, a cargo plane reportedly resupplying the RSF garrison in the city was bombed as it landed at the airport. Human Rights Watch on Wednesday said that in recent months, indiscriminate military airstrikes had killed dozens in the city, Darfur's largest. And that's all the breakfast headlines. Thanks for watching. Stay with us. Newspaper front pages comes up next, where you can be part of it by calling the numbers that will be on the screen as soon as we get started. We'll be right back after this break. Time for the front pages. Here on Breakfast Central, we will go straight into it. Daily Trust is our very first paper for today. And let's see what the front page of the Daily Trust says. As usual, how hot money remittance drive Abuja's property boom. It's an expose and insight. Also looks very much like a very good job done by Philip Shimnom, Clement, and Idowu Isamotu. It talks about development of properties in Abuja, including estates, private apartments, and plazas, experiencing significant growth, with some experts attributing the boom to various factors, including illicit financial activities. That's what it says. Don't forget that some have also pointed fingers at the manner in which these properties spring up despite a very tough time within the economy, and fingers are pointing towards what we see on the front page of Daily Trust. Right there, they also have an infographic. It says highbrow areas, like for instance in Gwarimpa, you could have 500 million to 1.2 billion depending on the site and location. That's how much you could see an accommodation for a property. 850 million to 1.5 billion for 5-bedroom detached duplex. You're looking at Katampi area as well. Not forgetting to Maitama. In Maitama, you have 2 to 7 billion for 73-bedroom. You also have Asokoro. In Asokoro, 2.5 to 5 billion naira for 5 to 7-bedroom mansion. Yes, I already said Katampe already, 850 to 1.5. There's another one here. Okay, Gariki. In Gariki, 150 to 900 million naira for 4-bedroom to 6-bedroom duplexes. The prices are cutthroat. I think there's a lot to be done from the federal government. In Kubwa area, Buhari, and of course, you could get 2 to 3-bedroom block of flats, 40 million to 100 million. Ooh, Lugbe airport area, and Apo, you could see it for 75 to 150 million. And then they go ahead to break it down for you. So they've done the work. They put everything together just to let you see the situation that's got to do with Nigeria's most talked about, you could say, a crisis that is looming, which has to do with the industry of properties and housing. So that's one aspect I think the federal government should focus on as well. I mean, we're dealing with a lot. There's insecurity, there's high cost of living, taxation, also dealing with the fact that everyone is trying to get by, job insecurity, no jobs, and then you also have housing crisis. Will people be living outside? Big question. Over 1.9 pilgrims converge on Mount Arafat today. It happens today. Over 1.9 pilgrims converge on Mount Arafat today. Let's see another story. Blackout looms in Abuja, 3 states, as electricity workers give strike notice. It was Justin at first, earlier this week, and then they called it off. Now you have electricity workers. They've given their notice. They'll be going into what we know as industrial action. So get ready. Massive security deployment in states, FCT ahead of Salah. Kano farmers resort to manure over high cost of fertilizers. We have that story. Let's look at another one. 20-year Emirate tussle will accept verdict. Jokolo's lawyer says. Mokwa flood, Niger cancels Durba as 1,610 children affected. And these are the big stories you find on the Daily Trust. The housing crisis rears its ugly head again from state to state, from Lagos to Abuja. Abuja's prices are not just cutthroat, but they are prices that are not meant for the weak. That's what we could say, because I mean, getting a 2-bedroom flat, duplex, you name it, and look at the prices, very, very expensive. I wonder what the future of housing looks like for Nigeria? Big one. Big
All right.
problem.
Thank you very much for taking us through that, the Daily Trust newspaper. Let's now go to the Punch newspaper. And on the front page of the Punch newspaper, the big story that we're seeing there, VIPs lobby presidency as federal government grounds 60 private jets. Wow. That's a very interesting one there. Customs seal of aircraft hangars at Lagos, Abuja airports over import duty default. Well, these are the people that, when Nigerians want to advocate for the inconsistency in Nigeria's airspace and maybe in terms of pricing and all, these are the ones that Nigerians will hope to pay all the bulk of the expensive rates as opposed to the rest of us who have, who end up paying the bulk of it in terms of how much flights would typically cost. But then still on the front page, we can see here the Honorable Minister of the FCT, Barrister Ezenwoye Somwike, CON, and the Honorable Minister here, Minister of State, Dr. Maria Mahmood, on behalf of all the residents of the FCT, welcome the President for the 17-day commissioning of the projects from June 10th to July 3rd, 2025. So from June 10th to July 3rd, 2025, you can see a number of the projects to be commissioned. Abuja International Conference Center. I mean, it's not very clear here, but they're not, you can see the list of the projects to be commissioned. That's why they call him Mr. Projects. Very interesting there. And then we can still see on the front page, Salah, Mokwa Bridge collapse fuels tomato pepper price surge. Ram prices soar 55% as inflation bites harder. Lagos Ibadan highway gridlock traps thousands. I can imagine, what the implication of this is for a number of people. I'd seen the report by Nairametrics about the interview that they had for certain people, especially ram sellers, as to how much they are paying in terms of what the rams were costing. So we have the holidays on Friday and on Monday. This weekend they're celebrating the Salah holiday. And in the reports that Nairametrics had done, I had seen that back in the day, people who could buy as much as 3 rams last year cannot even afford to buy 1 ram this year. Because from one seller, he said rams were between the rate of 200,000 and 700,000. Another seller said between the rate of 350,000 naira and 1 million naira to buy a ram, depending on the size, if it's a small ram, a medium ram, or a large ram. Another seller complained that as at now, he has not even sold more than 10 rams, which isn't typically the norm, because it now seems like it's a privilege. These are necessary parts of the celebrations. They're sacrificial animals. They're very necessary parts of the Muslim celebration, but unfortunately, there are many people who cannot afford to pay for this, and it will then dampen the mood of the celebration, and it's really, really sad to see that there. But if you're watching, maybe give us your own perspective of what the cost is regarding the Salah celebration. If you need to buy a ram, are you going to buy a ram this year or not? If you are buying the ram, how much did you buy it for? You can drop a comment on our YouTube comment section. We'll take some comments from there and get to hear your own thoughts and opinions regarding this. But that's all on the Punch newspaper. Let's now move on to the next newspaper, which is the Daily Independent newspaper.
All right, that's right. The Daily Independent newspaper on the front page there. Telcos look to federal government for recovery after losing 53 million subscribers. Olive. Telcos have lost 53 million subscribers. You wonder, why wouldn't the subscribers run away, or why should they stay? There are many thoughts to that. 2 courts summon Akpabio Nwaiboyin over Natasha. This is a fresh one.
Very fresh.
2 courts. All right. Defection won't decide 2027 election outcome, PDP says. PDP still believes that no matter the defection, no shaking, nothing will happen. Well, they say 2027 is going to be a referendum on APC failure. So they are certain that APC would have it tough, despite having many people move to the APC. DSS asks court to stop Utomi from holding shadow government rallies. The rallies are supposed to kick off very, very soon.
Right.
If you remember. IGP, okay, let's take this call. Let's find out what you have to say. All right.
Good morning,
Hello.
Akin.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling us from Ondo.
Okay. So about celebration and sacrifice during Salah. For me, I come from a family that is two sides. One side is Christian, another side is Muslim. They should sacrifice their heart. Muslims should sacrifice their heart instead of sacrifice an animal. If you are unable to afford the Salah ram that is too expensive, why bother yourself? If it is chicken, you can slaughter for your children, and then you pray. Let everybody take it easy. The way we are going in this country, people will now become desperate. So that my advice is that people should take it easy, calm down, sacrifice their heart. If they cannot sacrifice this year, they can sacrifice next year. Some will go for goats, which is okay. So that is my contribution. Thank you very much.
Very much for sharing your contribution. So he's giving feedback to, I mean, what I would love to ask him is if he's a Muslim and a practicing Muslim, and whether how much he sees that this, how important he sees this might be. Okay, let's look at the front page of Daily Independent, and Joe was taking us through the stories on the front.
I mean, I was looking through. He just made a very salient point. Is quite similar to what others make whenever it's time for other celebrations. And Nigerians, we know, we're bent on ensuring that we celebrate big. But I think directly and indirectly what he's saying here is you don't have to do it big if you do not have the means. Just let it go. But let's move on. Back to the story we mentioned. DSS asks courts to stop Utomi from holding shadow rallies. Remember, Part Utomi had said he's going to go ahead. Even if he's arrested, no problem. RGP warns crisis instigators marked as activists of consequences. Take note of that. Celebrations as tribunal reaffirms Governor Aiyedatiwa's election. That was quite similar to what we saw and witnessed last week, where the court also affirmed that of Senator Monday Okpebolo, the governor of Edo State. It's quite similar to what we've seen as the court, has also affirmed that of Aiyedatiwa. Moving on, front page there, federal government to rebuild. Moka donates 2 billion naira, 20 trucks of grains. I don't know why they're using the word grains. Is it really grains or is 20 trucks of rice? That's one thing we want to know, because we have mentioned here that it seems like every other thing that happens, rice can solve it. But it's good move, very good move by the federal government looking to rebuild the bridges that had collapsed. And that's a good one. And 2 billion naira, well done. That's a way to act to ensure they can get the people back on track again so they can move ahead. However, what no one is also talking about is the fact that this was a natural disaster. It could also make its way back any day, any time. So what is being done to mitigate or ensure that when it comes back again, the impact would be very minimal? That's one question to ask. Let's move on to this story that we can see here. Okay, I think that's pretty much all.
All right, we have another call from Anthony calling from Lagos. Good morning, Anthony. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Yes, I called to let you know that what is happening today in our country today, the campaign from PP to the PC, PC to the PDP, that should tell you that people don't have it. They don't have it for the masses. They have their own interest for selfishness. You understand what I'm saying? So anybody today now, nobody's talking about party. We're talking about individual. Whoever that wants to vote this time will vote for individual, not for party. Because all these are very selfish. When you have voted in for PDP or APC and you went to the camp, you didn't tell me you are the campaign. You are the campaign on your own. This one told me, okay, this is why I want to become from PDP to APC. But I voted you in. You paid me for voting, for my vote. I voted you in. When you were the campaign, tell me. So that is the special interest. In terms of the person to me, the DSS has nothing to do. They have no job. They have no job. What is shadow government? What do you mean by shadow government? Running the shadow government. That means they don't have anything to do. Let them go to the Senate and see what is happening there. Let them go to other government facilities and see what is happening there. Then you have time to say, this is my son, the shadow government. They are very, very stupid. They don't know what they are doing. Thank you.
Anthony has...
He says they don't know what they are doing, honestly. This issue about shadow government, you know, it's interesting because I saw an interview from many years ago where the former vice president of the country, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, was being interviewed by Seun Okunbaloye of Channels TV, and he was defending the shadow government at the time because the PDP had threatened to institute is it the PDP or the APC? I can't remember now. Had threatened to institute a shadow government, and he was defending it, saying that it's not, you know, it's a way of having a viable opposition. So having seen that years down the line, we're seeing criticism about it. They're not saying, from what they're saying, they're not saying they're trying to create a parallel government. They're just trying to ensure that they serve as a viable opposition, take some of the policies that will be implemented by the government of the day, break them down, and provide viable alternatives towards, you know, to what we currently have. And we have another caller. Let's take Mohammed from Port Harcourt. Good morning, Mohammed.
Good morning, my name is Ilaje Mohammed in Dabagi. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Well, I think the current situation in Nigeria where we have people being coerced into going to one party state or one party system, I think it's not good for us as a people because the spirit of checks and balances has already been killed. The separation of power has already been killed because a lot of persons feel threatened, and if you go against the government in power, you will be charged for one form of charges or the other, so as to let you know that either you join us or we'll go after you. Exactly the case of the former governor of Delta State, Yakoa. So I think it is not good for us as a people. Now look at a situation whereby a lot of people are homeless in this country. You go to Abuja, there are properties that are available for over 10 years without occupants. And most of them allegedly are proceeds of crimes and corruption. And nobody has been able to investigate who are those siphoning money and investing them in a dormant business that nobody is benefiting from. Don't we have a law where we compel the mortgage body to ask who owns this property and why are they not being put to use? And if they don't have purpose for it, government should exercise their power. We have civil servants that are in Abuja that are sleeping in gardens at motorparks because they could not afford where to live. So I think it is very sad and unfortunate that all the government will do the needful so that people will go out of this chaotic situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was going to ask him how he's, before he dropped call, how he's planning to celebrate from tomorrow.
Right. Anyway, he was talking about properties, and made me want to touch on a story I saw on the Daily Trust newspaper, the breakdown.
Yeah, I broke that down.
So I want us to see it again, because we'll have our analysts join us shortly to expand. So we're seeing Gwarimpa, 600 million naira to 1.2 billion naira. You know, that's what we're seeing in Gwarimpa, and it's depending on the site and location. So this is the cost of residential properties in Abuja, right? We're also seeing Maitama, 2 to 7 billion naira, right? That is for 7 to 5 bedroom. That's not very clear. Katankwe has 850 million naira to 1.5 billion naira. Yeah, people have money in this Nigeria. 5-bedroom detached duplex in Katankwe. Jabi, 700 million naira to 1 billion naira. Wuse, 500 million naira to 2 billion naira. Wuye, 800 million naira to 1.5 billion naira. Garki, 150 to 900 million naira. Asokoro, 2.5 to 5 billion naira. And Guzape, 3.5 billion naira. That's for a mansion, villa. I can't see it very clearly. Right, but this is the cost of properties in Abuja.
Let's take this call, Olive. Jerry, let's hear what Jerry has to say first. Jerry, good morning.
Well, good morning.
All right, go ahead.
My own problem is I don't have a problem with all this decamping of people from other parties to PDP, to APC. My concern is the hunger in the land. These people that are decamping to another party, they don't have the interest of the people at heart. Neither the government has the interest of the people at heart. You know, at the moment, you go to the market, you may have like a large amount of money, but you can only purchase few items from the market. And that is not good for the country, and that is not good for the masses. Now, people are struggling to survive in this country. Hardship is everywhere. And the insecurity is telling on the people. We cannot go to farm at the moment. This is rainy season. We can't go to the farm. Our lands have been taken over by the bandits, by the clan headsmen, you know. And so we are finding it difficult to farm. And so how do we get food to sustain ourselves in the coming year? So, and the government needs to provide security for us to enjoy. At least if they cannot do anything for us, they should not just provide security for us. If they cannot do any other thing, let them provide security for us to live in peace and go to our farms and cultivate food for self and for the nation. Thank you.
Jerry, I mean, your points are indeed salient. We're talking about them providing security and not focusing on 2027. Mr. Dr. John joins us live in the studios, public affairs analyst. What's your take on the front page there? Defection won't decide 2027 election outcome, according to PDP. Seems like political season is on instead of governance. I asked that question to a special advisor to President Tinubu, and he didn't take it lightly. He said no, that he's not happy with the way I asked the question. He thinks that question he wasn't really happy. He said, why would I be saying that governance is pause and politics that I shouldn't be saying that's the narrative I'm like, no, but that's what it's starting to look like. What's your take?
Okay, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's good to be here this morning. And it's a tradition, it's a political tradition in Nigeria that any government, we just have to work for the first 2 years of any administration, and just immediately after what we'll have called a mid-term assessment of the government, what sets in is the agenda to win the next election. So President Tinubu or his government or his administration is not the first to do this. It has become a tradition here in Nigeria. In fact, that's one of the reasons why some people at a point had advocated that maybe we should just have a single term tenure where somebody who gets elected to the office will just spend a straight 6 years. Because if you look at it very critically, that is not the solution. I'm still coming to that, but if you look at it very critically, you discover that in an 8-year tenure, if care is not taken, we only have about 3 to 4 years of active governance. And we cannot continue to do this. I was doing a calculation yesterday that if President Tinubu wins in 2027, that I was trying to add 6 years to my age, and I'm not finding it funny. It means that in my lifetime, I may not get to see more than a certain number of presidents rule Nigeria. So if any president under any guise of maybe politicking or anything, or desire to rule throughout life or to win the next election, puts governance on pause, it has affected my personal life. And I'm not taking it funny. It's not funny to me any longer. If you do the mathematics, you discover that the essence of government, in fact, sorry for sounding a bit religious, in biblical philosophy, it is believed that if something is done within 3 years, that you do not have a result, you only give the person additional 1 year, according to Jesus' philosophy. Oh, this tree didn't bring fruit in the last 3 years. Okay, let's give the fruit another 1 year. So there's no place for second term if you really think about it so deeply. Anything you want to do, people are talking about Minister Wike today. It's not, whatever he has done within this period of 2 years, whatever people are talking about that he has done within the FCT. And we have seen a few governors too in Abia that have been able to do a few things here and there. So if you look at this philosophy, then I think our solution, the solution to our governance is not in second term, it's in sense of urgency. There are projects that have been started in Nigeria since 2005 that have not been completed till today. Example of the project is the East-West Road. Now we have abandoned East-West Road tactically, and we are creating the Coastal Road. The Coastal Road is fantastic. But it's also a truism that if the essence of any government project, program, and policy is to bail out money from the pocket of the people without first of all feeling it in the first place, then that project will almost amount to a disaster.
Kind of like seems like taxpayers' money is meant for one project, while the other side of the country, their taxpayers' money is not meant for a project that benefits them.
Yeah.
So it's like saying a collective Nigeria. Pay your tax, but we'll use it for a setting. Anyway, we have a last caller before we go straight to the next paper. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Stephen, can you go ahead?
Yeah, my take in the discussion this morning is, some of the politicians who are defecting and all of that. You see, like, if I may use the word of the FCT minister, some of these politicians should not take Nigeria for granted, Now, I watched Bakare recently. He went to the president, discussed the way forward. I think, all these defections and all of that, it's just the same people trying to recycle themselves. And if I may continue to use the word of the FCT minister, just trying to remain in power. You know what I'm saying? Nigerians should not be taken for granted. For instance, whatever it is that some of them wanted to do now when they are defecting into APC, these are politicians who have been in power for some time. What were their antecedents? That's number one. Number two, if you are coming into an opposition, if you want to take Nigeria as a case study, say you want to form coalition, fine. But then we are talking about governance now. We are not even talking about campaign yet. And yet what people are concerned is about how to grab power. Just 2 years in a life of an administration that is 4 years. My point here, let me not waste your time, is this. Nigerians should know those who have their interests at heart, period. We must begin to question the intent of these politicians. Forming coalitions and all of that sounds good to hear. But what are the characters of these people that want to form this coalition? Nigerians are not that, daft to know that these are people who have history. Let's go back to their history. Let us judge what they did before we now begin to talk coalition and the characters who want to form this coalition. If we continue like this, Nigerians are going to be worse for it. I'm telling you, I'm not a prophet of doom. The best thing we can, if we actually love this country, is that any country that is, any government is in power, before you start talking about opposition, provide solutions. So when it's time for us to go into campaign, from the solutions you have profiled, we know whether I have interest of Nigeria at heart or not. God bless you.
Let's go to Daily Independent. I hear we have more callers, but we have to move on with the focus. DSS asked court to stop Utomi from holding shadow government.
Fantastic.
You like that?
Of course I do. That's how we should behave in a same community. If you do not like something, instead of busting the person or the people in the night, you take them to court. And I think this is the first time in a very long while that DSS will be having this approach. You remember what even happened in Ibadan? They came to Sunday Igboho's house and busted the place in the night and killed a few number of people, arrested them before he ran away. That was unnecessary. So I think this is the right thing to. In democracy, the essence of democracy is discussion. And you should not expect that everybody in the community will tow behind your government or will kill behind your government, especially when your government seems to be strolling on the path of purpose. It frustrates the people. So they have the right to actually do some of the things they are doing. But it's also within the right of the DSS or the government to have taken them to court. So I think the DSS is behaving well, and I do love it.
All right. Interesting. There are too many stories. I'd like to get your thought on Mokwa, Niger State, the flooding, the lives that have been lost, the support they're getting post-flooding. The VP visited yesterday. They made promises to contribute. They made financial pledges to support the people of Niger State. And unfortunately, they're not also going to be able to celebrate Salah. The government has, ensured that large-scale celebrations will not happen this weekend. Let's get your thoughts first about it and how, as a nation, we're ensuring that we don't have this happen again. I worry that maybe we could have, in a way, prevented the outcome that we have seen. And I worry that this might just be another one case that we'll make a little noise about, and after a while we'll move on until another flash flood.
Okay, I think I share your worry about that. Now, let's be very clear. You see, when they talk about security of life, about through conflict or things like that, they are not saying that a community is secure because it doesn't have things like this. They are only saying that a community is secure because it has adequate response to things like this. For instance, Boko Haramism. When they strike, because it's an ideology, and fighting against ideology is not a fight of deadline. It's a fight of consistency and truth. We lack truth, we lack consistency, and that's why it's complex. So in a situation like this, it reminds me of what we used to do in my community. We call it Ojuala Day. It's a gathering. Every year we come together. And as a boy, I will watch people write check. I watch people write note. And they will take it to the MC, and Chief Dotto has donated 100 naira, and everybody will clap. Only for me to hear, 6 months into the year, that Chief Dotto only promised. He never came back to he never came back to pay his pledge. And that is the custom of government. When government comes out to say, oh, we are doing this, because of the bottleneck that is involved in getting money out, before they get the money out, the victim will have fallen into depression. So I think that is the way, that's the particular place that we must lay emphasis on. In the first place, there are preventive measures that should have been taken. But of course, it runs from government to government. It's not just about this government. How often do we have flooding in those areas? What can we do? You remember we are having, the government was having conversation with the Cameroonian authority about one of the dam and all of that. How far have we gone with this conversation? But we must know that as we are going ahead with this conversation, we must improve our response so that anywhere Nigerians go, they will treat us well because they know that our government responds to our need so quickly. So these are some of the things that I want the government to pay attention to. Preventive, fantastic. But what do we do as a response? When there's killing in a US school, everybody comes to say, oh, insecurity and all of that. Yeah, people travel to the US. Why? Because they know that the response time is almost very limited. They come quickly and get this done. And I think this is the habit of government. This is how government should behave. So I think as they are working on the preventive measure, we must also tighten up the area of response.
But the thing is, are they really working on the preventive measure as much? That's what my concern is.
I actually don't know.
Because now we're in response mode. We're about to enter the peak of rainy season. What happens? Thankfully, Lagos government, they were here on the show this morning to talk about the work they're doing to ensure that we're not having our drainages clogged. But these floods will happen. The rains will come. They will pour heavily.
Do you know this agency is a meteorological agency? NIMET always comes out every year. Yes, to say fantastic agency. But whatever we're doing with the report is the question we need to be asking ourselves. They are agency of government. They've come with their report that so state. In fact, at the point they were talking about 26, 27 states will be affected by flooding as a result of heavy rain, I think about a year or 2 years ago. Yes. But what are we doing with some of this information? So we'll continue to charge our government of the agency appropriately.
What's your take on telcos as they look to federal government for recovery? They've lost 53 million subscribers. And I'm sure you are aware of the USSD now imposed on your data usage.
Yes. So there's even an update to that, but let's get him.
In the class of motivation in those days, they say don't listen to people because talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. Now talk is very expensive. It is. And you see, it has become secondary because in any community where survival becomes the most important thing, success becomes absent. As we're talking now, Nigerians find it very difficult. In fact, we should even give credit to them. I was studying the life of some of the staff around me who take home a little amount of money from the minimum wage of 70 to 100,000. Then I begin to consider, how are these people leading their life in this harsh economy? Until I was suddenly reminded that there are people in the economy today that still take home 30,000 naira in the economy. So you continue to ask the simple question, how are they going to survive? So calling making calls, sending texts or whatever have you, has statically become a secondary issue in Nigeria because food must enter. And you see that people are even struggling to get the food. Unfortunately, this is the painful part of it, yeah? And it's not even, I don't even know the best way to put it. It's the fact that in the history of our nation, this is the first time that the government is making this kind of money the government is making. In 2014 October, I think I said it here before, October 17, 2014, the United Nations says that for us to be able to solve the problem of poverty, that more allocation should be given to people living in abject poverty. Now in 2025, we are still in that poverty situation, precarious. Between 2023 and now, 10 million more people have fallen under the poverty line. So if we are in this situation, we should deliberately pay attention to making allocation available to people living in abject poverty. But do you know what? Our own case is reversed. What we are doing now is to make more allocation available to people living in opulence, in prosperity, in form of government. Go and check, and the federal government has attested to this fact. Go and check anytime dollar goes up. Go anytime you discover that it is when they disburse money to the state government. Fact. Anytime dollar goes up to one thing, because look, it's simple mathematics.
Why is the dollar going down?
These people get the money and they change it, and before you know it, once demand is more than supply, you know what will happen? There's scarcity in the community. So the issue of poverty is what we must pay attention to, and there's no strategy to solving the issue of poverty. In one of the countries of the world, I'm trying to remember, the Prime Minister came out and said, I'm an economist of 27 years. I have left government, I've left multilateral organization. There has never been a government that prospered by imposing more tax on its people. And there was argument. And they brought out countries. Okay, let's do the mathematics. And it was agreed in that forum that you cannot tax people to make your government actually prosperous. So what can you do in that case? The first thing is that, first of all, bring your people out of poverty. When you bring them out of poverty, you'll be able to get more money from them without them complaining. And it is through service. Maybe you will allow me to quickly link this story to the most important story for me on the pages of newspaper today, which is talking about housing. You were doing the analysis now. And it's so annoying. You're within a group of people and you're asking them, how much are you paying? And they're saying in a 2-bedroom flat, they're calling 2.5 million. And
now you are calling mainland rate.
You see?
Because I was speaking, we were talking about this with someone on the island. Houses are already entering over 10 million for 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartments. And I was just asking myself, what is my
What's the future?
The truth is that people only work now to service what goes into their mouth and their shelter. That's the reason why they work now. And at the end of the day, you get frustrated because you get home and it's like you have not done anything. And the way forward is very simple. You know, I have said it because these are tested things that have worked. And it was tested in Nigeria, I think in 1980 something. When government talks about regulation, you can look around the world. The best way to do a regulation is to have an alternative. When you don't have an alternative, you cannot regulate. For example, this morning now, for people going to Ibadan from Lagos, they got to the park. There's no single bus. And I did my investigation. I got to know that the chairman of the park came to say everybody should leave the park. So the vehicles were parked elsewhere. So there were a lot of people there now. So one of them will just come and say, oh, transport from here to Ibadan is 50,000. And people will have to rush into it. Why can't government control that? Because there's no alternative. In terms of moving the people. So housing, there's no alternative. So there's nothing to use to regulate. This is Ikeja. If government has a government estate here and say, oh, in Ikeja area of Lagos, the highest we can go for a 3-bedroom flat is 500,000.
But you know what? This is another conversation.
I think we invite you to have this conversation.
Different players inside, the key players in the real estate sector, and they will tell you, government is not the one buying my cement. Government is not the one doing
the problem. We can't
discuss this today. because we are out of
Can I quickly just
and we need to get out of the
this?
studio
I know.
in 5 seconds.
The problem is illicit fund. Illicit fund had found itself.
That's what you have in the front page of the Daily Times.
And when I use 2 billion to buy land, how do I want to give it out?
Yet one person has over 700 duplexes.
Thank
we have
you.
to get out of the studio now. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for your time.
Bye.